This is the Fan Morning Show with KB, JB, and Jeff.
Nice seal by Hask. Flips it up. Gets it to go. What the harm. What a seal to get the inbound toughness personified. And it's over. A return to national prominence for the Gators. Long one. James knocked away. Knipple. Back outside. Proctor tosses it up. It's no good. The dream remains alive for the Houston Cougars. Here is Ovetkin. Shoots. He scores. He scores. Number 895.
And there's the buzzer. It's an even dozen for Gino Auriemma and Connecticut. The final page in the Book of Beckers is title number 12 for UConn.
Nembhard, strong drive, right side, pull up 15 feet away, and Nembhard with 19 points has given the Pacers a 4-point lead.
Happy Monday morning. Nothing to watch, nothing to pay attention to over the weekend. Just a couple of Final Fours, a national championship game last night. Pacers win in Denver. Lots to get to. It's Masters Week, Kevin. Mark and I were discussing just before you walked in the door. Kevin Bowen and James Boyd, Mark Dykton, Jeff Rickard with you this morning. You going to sleep at all this week? This has got to be your week, right?
Yes, I'm excited. Mark might have made it off-camera joke about my level of excitement. We'll keep that off the air, but you can get the gist of that. Very much looking forward to Will Haskett, one of our favorites, who joins us pretty much every time. The majors roll around, and indeed, Masters Week is here. And can we be happy about the tip time tonight, or are we going to bitch that it's not earlier?
We're going to bitch that it's not earlier.
Remember, we're a half hour earlier.
I know.
We're 8:50 tonight for Houston and Florida.
It was not made for morning shows.
9:20 was what our previous national title tip time
I'll complain
is.
still.
Yeah,
much earlier, and really looking forward to. I think I speak for a lot of people. One of the favorite sports weeks of the year.
A terrific sports week. We have Major League Baseball in full swing. How about those Cubs yesterday, Mark Dykton? Well, they have a 4 or 5 run lead before it got away.
Yeah, and they won 2 out of 3 against the Padres.
Oh, it's 2 out of 3. Forget the loss yesterday, JB. They won 2 out of 3.
I knew he was going to go there. They could win. They could win 5 in a row, and they'd be like, "Well, they lost 1 though." Well, they're not going to go perfect. How about you worry about your Rockies and Reds? How about you worry about them?
Do the Rockies still exist? Do they still play?
You tell me. I don't know. But the Reds, Ellie De La Cruz had a weekend, and not the good kind, JB. I don't know what was going on. 2 for 16 with no extra base hits.
Can we just talk about the Pacers? Can we move on from the Reds?
Yeah, I was about to say, Pacers, that win was
crazy. We're just
tree-topping
right now,
How about that win last night?
That was beautiful.
Hell of an effort from the bench. Obviously, we talked about it for a couple weeks now. When or if Pascal Siakam will get that night off, he gets it. Denver makes a very committed approach to trying to limit Tyrese Halliburton. You need your others to step up, and I thought the bench unit, for a little bit of the roller coaster nature we've had over the last month or so, they were very, very good. They took advantage of the non-Jokic lineups there in the fourth, and Jarris Walker, he is starting to continue. I shouldn't say starting. He is continuing to earn some significant minutes, and right now, as we look ahead to 4 games left in the regular season, I mean, Jarris Walker is a part of your playoff rotation. Last night, Rick Carlisle went back to him with 4 minutes to go in the game. The most critical stretch, he goes back to Walker. So really one of the finer wins of the Pacers season. And what I think we have circled here lately is one of the true kind of playoff type of barometers here down the stretch.
I just love that. And, of course, the Nembhard bucket down the stretch, Key gave him a 4-point lead, really kind of pushed him over the edge there.
Yeah, that's a tough shot. I mean, for anybody who's ever played basketball and has a little bit of handle to drive that hard right and snatch it right back and stay on balance and make the shot. I mean, Aaron Gordon is not some slouch defender. That was a tough bucket to put him up and ultimately proved to be like the dagger. And I thought that Denver basically just gave the game away. They walked the Pacers down but couldn't get over the hump because they made mistake after mistake towards the end there. A lot of turnovers, one by Jokic in the clutch as well. He was awesome. I think he's the best player in the world, but obviously you still need some help out there, and the Pacers don't feel any sympathy for them either. I thought that Tyrese, I tweeted this out after the game, I still would like him to be like a better scorer overall. I know people are probably rolling their eyes like, oh, man, they defended him so differently. I don't care, quite frankly, because other number one options find a way to still be effective with scoring the ball. And I thought that Tyrese, even late, could have taken a couple more better shots. But overall, a great team effort and a great win without Pascal. So I think if you're Denver, you're like, man, we're in trouble because Jokic, I mean, what was the last 2 weeks? 60-point triple-double, 40-point triple-double, and you lose both. And then for the Pacers, it's like, I'm seeing in the YouTube chat, your 50 wins, KB, is still alive.
That was a big one last night. That was a big one for the old 50-win bet. So, again, Wizards coming up tomorrow. They'll back-to-back it with Cleveland and Orlando Thursday and Friday. Cleveland again on Sunday. The Cavs are on the verge of clinching the 1 seed. Donovan Mitchell turned his ankle last night. So, can't imagine Cleveland will be playing their frontline guys too much. And, I mean, hell, the Pacers could have some stuff clinched up by the end of the week as well. So, very much in a great position to clinch at least the 4 seed. Probably looking like the 4 seed. I saw the Knicks won last night. So, probably going to be the 4 seed for the Pacers here coming up in a little over a week.
I'll take that. And speaking of your bets, I think you had a good night at the Final Four, too, didn't you?
That did not. I needed. Thank you for rubbing that in.
No, I seriously, I thought you got both. Maybe I misunderstood.
No. I needed Auburn. Yeah. Did you do that on purpose?
No, I did not.
No, don't buy
I
that.
literally
Don't buy
thought
it.
you had the Auburn. I'm sorry about that.
Top rope people's elbow.
It's a hard kick in the you-know-what here to start the week.
I'll take pride in the top rope elbow. I wish I had thought of it, but I didn't. Had a good weekend, too. Friday night, I got a call like at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Like the MC for the Fisher's Freight was out, and their backup Hammer from over at WIBC couldn't do it. And they're like, hey, can you come out and do the MC? And I'm like, okay. So, like, on 2.5 hours' notice, I went over and did the Fisher's Freight on Friday. Had a really good time. Mark James was in the audience. He texted me like, hey, didn't know you were doing this. I'm like, I didn't know I was doing this either. But we had a really good time. It's a fun atmosphere. That building is so beautiful, and it's so cool, and they have great concessions. I was walking around the concourse afterward or before, and just good stuff and good people. And it was mostly full building, if not sold out. I don't know. Didn't see a lot of empty seats. And it was just a lot of fun, and the Fisher's Freight are 2-0, and it's a good time. If, like, you want a good family night out or just a date night out, I would highly recommend that. That was a good time.
I have, like, vivid memories as a young kid going to the Firebirds game. I mean, this would obviously have been way back in the day, but being thoroughly, like, entertained by it. I had a college roommate actually text me and said that I was at the Fisher's Freight game on Friday night and had a blast with the family. So we'll add that to the minor league sports that we have here in our great city and surrounding counties that provide some awesome entertainment.
You know, for all the things I've done over the years, I don't think that's the first time I've ever hosted any event like that.
So were you doing like St. Elmo shrimp eating contests?
Yeah,
and
stuff like that. We did like
football tosses,
drunk beer goggles, drawing contest, football throws, things like that. It was a lot of fun. I don't know that it's my jam necessarily. Like, I had a good time. I enjoyed it. I don't know that I'd want to be the MC full time. I don't know that they'd want me back full time, to be honest with you. But we had a good time. It was fun.
Yeah, I had a buddy that went and said they enjoyed it. So, I mean, it's something else to do on a Friday night. And as Dixie Wooten kind of laid out there last week, you know, it's like the club. So you can go have a good time, get your dance on, get your football on, and then go to the real club afterwards. So I don't know if that happened last Friday because of the water. I actually have a pair of old Nikes that I had from high school that I ruined because I had to step through a ton of water to get into my apartment building. It's like the street I live on is not level at all. So when it rained that hard, I was like, well, I guess that's why I keep a couple beaters in the car. So I had some beat up shoes, and they did not make it through after getting through some puddles there. But
I like the fact that you keep a pair of beat up shoes in your car just in case.
You're a veteran over
there. Yeah.
Well,
I learned, you know what I learned from, though? It's from when I covered cross country as a high school sports reporter. And the first time I did it, I didn't have any extra socks or shoes, and it was soggy and wet, and it was like the most miserable 3 hours ever. And I told myself I'd never forget to have like an extra pair of hoodie, like shoes and socks in my car. So those three things will always be in there, along with jumper cables and all the other stuff.
That reminds me, Kevin, when you go to a PGA tournament and you're going to walk the grounds, you just take your sneakers, or are you one of those wear my golf shoes guys?
No, I can't say I'm a golf shoe guy. Yeah, I probably should draw the line at somewhere of acting like I'm a trying to be a real golfer. No, I am but unfortunately, it does look like Mother Nature's going to rear her ugly head down there in Georgia today. I saw that no patrons will be allowed on the grounds at Augusta National. But yeah, certainly, just thoughts with everybody in our state that are dealing with some serious flooding. I think it's a little bit more outside of maybe our listening audience. I'm sure spring sports are being impacted in some way, shape, or form. Not everybody's blessed to have the the turf baseball field
Right.
nowadays. So, hopefully we can string together a few days here of just dry weather and get back to actual springtime and spring activities outdoors.
Did you see the pictures of the Ohio River just outside Cincinnati yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, it's all the way down there. I think Columbus, Indiana has been really wrecked hard from it as well. I think Shelbyville. We were down in Brown County on Friday, and, that area was starting to kind of bubble up. Salt Creek down there was starting to, rise, and unfortunately it's not like the rain stopped on Saturday or Sunday at all there. So
That's one of my favorite places to go, Brown County State
Awesome.
Park. Did you guys spend some time up there? Or?
Yeah, and some people, the nice thing about it is, like, I feel like you can check off the box if you have kids or if you don't have kids.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's pretty universal, and, like, you can create a very good time for yourself. It's just, you and a couple, or if it's you with some children. So, yeah, we had a great time down there over the weekend.
All right, coming up in a minute, we'll talk more about the Pacers' win last night in Denver, closing in on the 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. The Masters is about to get underway, Major League Baseball to talk about, and a national championship game, and also an unbelievable record set last night in the world of sports. We'll talk about it all next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Happy Monday morning and a happy day for the Indiana Pacers who went on the road in Denver last night. KB 125-120. Gotta like that, huh?
Big time. I thought the bench huge. Again, no Siakam, even no Ben Shepherd. I thought that group really stepped up. Obi Toppin had a big start to the game, and you're not having the Halliburton video game type number evening, 9 points, 13 assists. He had 3 turnovers, and yet you still get a win in a place you hardly ever win. So, again, we haven't had, I think, a lot of great playoff barometers just given the schedule here lately. I think this is one of them. So for the Pacers to go out there and win in the fashion they did, I think is an impressive note here in the final month of the regular season.
JB Obi Toppin had 22 points. Miles Turner led the way with 24. It was a tough scoring night for Tyrese Halliburton, but they were able to overcome.
Yeah, you need more from him. I know I will die on this hill. I know I'm hard on Tyrese, but that's what I am. I'm hard on superstars. However, I love what Miles brought them. I think that he's an underrated player in this league still, and you see what he can do when he's knocking down shots and also giving you what he gives you defensively.
The Pacers were able to overcome another tremendous night by Nikola Jokic. 41 points, 15 rebounds, 13 assists. They just don't give him a lot of help. Brown had 30, but after those two, what is there?
Yeah, I put this out there on social media right after the game. If Jamal Murray isn't healthy, and it sounds like the hamstring could linger into the playoffs, they have zero chance of doing anything relevant in the postseason. So sad to say, but that's also why you got to capitalize on winning a championship when you're there. So they won one, but to say they even have a chance to win one again would be naive because you can't win it by yourself.
They maintain a 3-game lead over the Milwaukee Bucks for that 4th spot in the Eastern Conference race. The Bucks did win over New Orleans 111-107. 4 games remaining in the season for both teams, and they'll return home for a game against Washington on Tuesday night. Should we talk Major League Baseball, Mark Dykton?
Sure, go ahead.
All right, Chicago Cubs blew a 7-2 lead to the Padres at home, 8-7 the final score. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. That's why it's baseball. There's 162 of them. We're going to get losses every now and then. Can't win them all as much as I wanted to.
They played well as of late. Let's keep that in mind.
Yeah, they won 5 in a row up until then.
I'd forgotten that part. Sorry about that. Milwaukee did beat the Cincinnati Reds 8-2. It's just tough going in the early part of the season for our Reds, KB.
Oh. Yeah, let's just move on to Monday night, the national title game. Can we?
Quite funny how we brought the Cubs and then let's sweep the Reds under the table.
8:50 tonight in the Alamo Dome. It will be the Houston Cougars and the Florida Gators. These two teams combined to win 35 of their last 36 games. You guys surprised at all about the line for this one?
1.5? Is that what it is?
It's the slight favorite going to the Gators.
Yeah. I don't know. I might go against that line.
I actually think that Houston will defend Walter Clayton Jr. a lot better than others have because that's what they hang their hat on, best defense in the country. And I know I keep saying that, and then he goes out there and goes off anyways. But I do think that Kelvin Sampson will have something for him, for sure.
Boy, I will say this, at times, and I'm probably showing my age a bit, it's like, James, you probably don't have this yet, but it's like, all right, are you going to stay up for all this Saturday night? Are you going to trust that Houston's going to make a run here? Even last night with the Pacers, if you watched that first quarter, you probably thought, oh, boy. I don't know if I'm giving this until 11 o'clock. You were rewarded Saturday night. You were very much rewarded last night. Again, tonight it will be 8:50. But boy, that close on Saturday night, just putting Houston away. I think we made the reference last week a couple times. It's a little bit like, the old school video game of finish them. Like it's easier said than done. Houston's lost 4 times all season, and 3 of them are in overtime. It's just, for anybody that watched the Kansas game earlier this year, Houston had a very similar situation, and they were able to come back at Kansas to win that game. So cannot wait for tonight. Walter Clayton Jr. has been absolutely incredible. I hate to even say it out loud because I think it's a little hyperbolic, but there are some Steph Curry shot-making moments from him that you just don't typically see with college guards. So I cannot wait for tonight. Again, 8:50 there. 1.5-point favorite, Florida over Houston.
Also last night, it was on in the Rickard household. The UConn women win their 12th national championship with Gino Auriemma. Paige Bueckers gets her first. And, of course, Strong was the most outstanding player. Freshman, she just dominated.
Yeah,
inside.
I mean, she was the best player on the floor.
Sarah Strong. Yeah.
Paige Bueckers, best player in the country this past year outside of Juju Watkins. But, I mean, it was a great game. I believe great game for UConn, but their first national championship in 9 years. It seemed like a long time for a program of that stature. And, going into that game, I had picked South Carolina to win it all in my bracket, but my heart was telling me South Carolina, but the head was saying UConn because their top 3 are future WNBA All-Stars and possibly MVPs and number one picks. Like Paige is number one pick. Sarah in 3 years will be a number one pick. And as AZ Fudd, like that's a top 5 pick. And
she was the most outstanding player.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and then
Fudd,
South Carolina, I mean, yes, they're very deep, but their top end players just couldn't hang with UConn at all. And honestly, maybe we shouldn't have been surprised because they blew them out one time in the regular season and blew them out again in the championship.
A shout out locally too, Ashlyn Shade, national champion, ended her high school career at Lumiere, but a Noblesville product there.
I saw her play at Noblesville. Claim to fame.
4 points yesterday off the bench, and Ayanna Patterson dealing with an injury, missed basketball a couple years ago from UConn. So,
it was nice to see. Yeah. And I think Shade had averaged about 11 points
a game.
She was starting
a couple of games earlier this season.
Through injuries, I think.
If I'm not mistaken.
And she grabbed so many rebounds. That girl plays hard. Yeah. So that was cool to see.
Yeah, it was fun. Also, locally, Iowa Cubs and Indians split a doubleheader. Indians win 5-4 in the first in 10 innings. You were at that game?
Yeah. That's how we spent our Sunday. And then
Did you stay for both?
No. We joined the game we originally had tickets for. We weren't going any earlier.
Okay.
Girls wanted pancakes on Sunday, so had to whip those up.
There's nothing wrong with that. And, of course, it is Masters Week. Who do you like so far? Who's your favorite for the week, KB?
Well, I think my early thought is Jordan Spieth, but honestly, the smart play is probably Scotty Scheffler or Rory McIlroy, right?
Let's see. Scheffler's won 2 of the last 3, and McIlroy is looking to complete the career Grand Slam.
And Rory in great form. Will Haskett is going to join us at 8. He, I think this time last year, he made some analogies to the Final Four teams in regards to players in the Masters, and I think he labeled Scotty Scheffler UConn. So he was spot on with that thought. I don't know exactly where he'll go necessarily this year, but again, fingers crossed for Mother Nature, and looking forward to one of my favorite weeks of the year.
I feel like you've been on the Jordan Spieth train the last couple of years, and then you talk to Will Haskett, and then your mindset changes.
Well, again, I mean, Rory or Scotty Scheffler is probably the easy thought there. I don't know. Spieth's in a little bit decent form. I'm trying not to go with just like the layup, just the obvious of chalk. Granted, we just watched the NCAA tournament, and here we are with 2 1 seeds playing for the national title tonight.
It's funny how that works, and I don't know what it is about majors, but the cream always rises. Very rarely do you get a guy out of nowhere to win a major, KB. It just doesn't happen very often. All right, we'll talk about that coming up in just a few minutes as we continue a happy Monday as the Pacers get another victory last night. Along with KB, JB, and Jeff, it is Mark Dykton on the 1s and 2s. You're listening to the Fan Morning Show on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Happy Monday as we roll through it here. Getting ready to talk to Will Haskett about the Masters coming up the top of the hour. The Pacers win last night. Of everything that took place over the weekend, JB, what's the thing you bring with you today that really excites you?
It has to be the comeback by Houston. I mean, I thought they were dead, and I thought that the foul call on Cooper Flag was egregious. I know I'll never feel sorry for Duke, but that was a horrible call. But on top of that, it wasn't the reason they lost. I mean, just the all-time collapse by them. They couldn't break a press. They couldn't inbound the ball. I was like, am I watching, KB coach his son or something? Like, what are we doing? Like, it was pretty rough to see a team of that caliber just implode that late. And then credit to Houston because they literally never stopped fighting for that game.
Yeah, and I think a lot of teams you see, they get in those situations and they just start to panic and foul. And Kelvin Sampson, they really kind of trust his guys to play defense. Obviously, that is one of their calling cards. And, a reason why I felt good about Houston over Duke was, I think based off the competition over the last 3 months. I mean, the ACC was a joke, flat out. ACC was a joke all year long. And I thought Kelvin Sampson was probably a little bit too much on the high horse after the game, but I get where he was coming from. He repeated it time and time again.
Yeah.
Big 12, Big 12, Big 12. Now, spinning it forward to Monday night, Houston celebrated that like they won the national title. And I get it was a historic comeback and all that, but that was a pretty kind of emotional post-game scene. I mean, Kelvin Sampson's dancing like I've never seen the man dance. So,
would you bust a move, KB?
Well, there is part of me that thinks, boy, you do have another one on Monday. But Houston also I think is wired as a team that once that ball is tipped tonight at 8:50, they'll be ready to go. But insane, and honestly, I thought one of the plays that kind of changed it a little. I thought the Mason Gillis flagrant foul started to kind of change some things there. I think it was maybe 14. Cryer hits the jump shot and Gillis gets the flagrant. Then that started to snowball a little bit from there. Obviously, you brought up plays as well. Proctor misses the free throw. They have the inbounds pass. They're unable to get it in.
And Houston kept hitting shots, too.
Right. And Cryer, I thought,
Sharp got hot.
Yeah, he was huge. Yeah, Sharp got hot as well. And then Roberts made some big free throws. And when you look at it, I mean, that's a 60-something% foul shooter coming up there and hitting both those foul shots there. So just a wild one. It almost made me forget, Florida raced an 8-point halftime deficit in the first game there. So two outstanding semifinal games, and I hope we get that again tonight.
I always think, too, so I know that Cooper Flag had to accept, the National Player of the Year award, the next morning. And I'm like, do you even shower? Do you just go to your room and just stay up all night and
treats it like Kevin Bowen treats a morning show?
Yeah. And do you just walk in you're still – because I'm like, man, what was it, 8 hours ago or whatever, you thought you were on your way to a national championship game, and now you're like, oh, my season's over. Yeah, it's a war, whoop-de-doo. But that was that's a tough pill to swallow for Cooper Flag. Now, I can't feel sorry for the kid. He's on his way to making a ton of money, number one pick. But, man, and also, last thing I'll say on this for myself is the last shot they got, I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. But a Cooper Flag fadeaway, I'm just like, man, you're 6'10", get downhill, forcing to make a call because, as we saw, they will make a call. You might not agree with it, but they probably make one. So hats off to Houston, man. I feel like they just the junkyard dogs. They won with some guys you're probably not going to hear about. They're not household names. They're not NBA players, but it doesn't matter, man. They got their piece of glory, and now they're going to chase the ultimate glory tonight.
How much time does John Shire spend breaking down that last 2 minutes on film, or does he just throw that away and never look at it again?
No, you got to look at it.
Yeah,
you got to look at it. They could not break a press. They couldn't inbound the ball.
And again, I felt like point guard was an issue for them or was a question mark that the ACC just never really tested. They just were overly way too talented. And, look at it. For large chunks of Saturday night, you felt like they were that team. I thought they had some missed opportunities in the first half to really try and put Houston away. Mm-hmm.
Cryer wouldn't let them get too far.
Yeah, kind of hung in there. And they cut it to 6 at half? I mean, it felt like a miracle. Houston was only down 6 at half when they were down double figures at one point. And I don't think we've maybe talked enough about this for Houston under Kelvin Sampson. We've seen them in the Final Four. Hell, we saw them here get run out of Lucas Oil Stadium in the Final Four a couple of years ago. I do think being in the Big 12 is different. I mean, when they were in the American, they would just run through that conference and largely wouldn't get tested. But now the fact that they were in a situation at Allen Fieldhouse a month and a half ago where they're down 6 a couple, 20, 30 seconds to go, and they're able to make that comeback. Again, as much as Sampson was, certainly feeling himself on Saturday night, I did think there was some validity to that in a weird way, Houston has been much more battle-tested over the last couple of months than Duke. Duke had not had one-possession game. So if you put that game pressure on them, you put Flagg into those moments. I don't want to overreact to Cooper Flagg missing that shot, but we have seen some times end-of-game situations this year where Flagg hasn't been that ultimate closer. Nothing against him, but it's just different. And look at how Florida's handled it. I mean, Florida as an SEC team, they seemingly were on the brink in round 2 against UConn. They seemingly were on the brink in the Elite Eight against Texas Tech. And if Auburn wouldn't have looked so hungover to me on Saturday, I think Auburn could have finished them off as well. But, man, Clayton Jr.'s just been – it's been some for me, it's been some Kemba Walker, Shabazz Napier vibes. Just his
shot making.
Climb on my back and follow me here because – again, there were stretches Saturday night.
He saved him against Auburn.
I thought Auburn was going to be able to pull it out, and now seemingly 3 different times. I've looked at Florida thinking, okay, this is it for him, and here they are playing on Monday night.
So it's fun because you've got 2 teams now that just will not quit in a basketball game. They just keep coming at you.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, again, I expect Florida to have their hands full with Houston, mainly because Houston is the best defensive team in the country, and I don't think they're going to I shouldn't say let, because Walter Clayton Jr. is not – being guarded by me out there. He's making some tough shots, but I think they're going to be inclined to just double him and force other guys to beat him at this point. Like, okay, we've seen your scoring ability, but can you play make and can other guys make shots? Because every time he gets going, it's almost like it's too late for the other team to stop him because the shots, it's like if he sees a couple simple shots go through, he'll start making some crazy off, platform bank shots
and corner. He hit that one in the corner and then the and one. Yeah, the one that he banked
running, falling bank shot. I'm like, what the heck? But
I mean, I felt like an idiot earlier saying to you guys, I'm not saying he's going to be this guy, obviously, in the NBA, but I get some Steph Curry shot-making type of vibes of you'd think the possession's kind of going nowhere. Next thing you know, Clayton just rises and bang. And I don't know. There's just not many guys in college that I've seen do that on that stage. And it's
that was fun.
It's special to watch. So, again, Saturday night, outstanding. I hope tonight lives up to it.
Didn't Cryer, wasn't he the one that had that weird turnover on the baseline, then came right back and hit a big 3? For Houston,
what's his name? Kicked it, and
yeah.
Are you talking about that?
Yeah,
when they didn't call the kick.
Yeah,
Well,
there was one that he did something on the baseline.
One of the many Duke calls
right towards the end of the first half.
I mean, Tugler, has the technical as well. They're able to overcome that.
Oh, he did that, KB, I was like, oh, this is the dumbest player of all time. Like, they just lost the game.
And of course, he's the one that had the pass.
I know.
I
mean, there's nobody who's happier about the outcome of that game than Tugler, because I was like, how do you do that?
That's who it was, yeah.
Like, oh my goodness, that was just completely just boneheaded. But again, a team usually wilts after that. Everyone usually knows after a play like that, oh, we're dead. And they just kept scrapping and clawing and fighting. And again, I thought the call on Cooper Flagg was horrible. Like, how do you make that call 90 feet from the basket and he goes to the free throw line? But on top of that, they made their free throws. You didn't. So I can't feel too sorry for Duke. I never will, because you had ample opportunity to close that game out and you just didn't. But, I mean, wow. I mean, that entire last 5 minutes, not the entire last 5 minutes, but about 5 minutes ago, we're all thinking, man, John Shire, you took over for Coach K. You're in the championship. You got the best player in the country. And that all went to pretty fast.
Did either of you guys check out the Women's National Championship game yesterday, the alternate telecast with Sue Bird and Caitlin Clark?
Yeah, I saw bits and pieces of it. It's always cool to hear Caitlin just talk hoops. I know we talk to her about all types of things, and sometimes not basketball related, but it is kind of cool to pick her mind. And she was talking about how Paige, her poise will translate to the WNBA, and her ability to make shots from any level of the floor. But it was cool because you see a different eras. You have, Caitlin, who's up and coming. You have DT, who's arguably the greatest ever in WNBA history, and then Sue Bird, who's another GOAT as well. So I enjoyed it. I feel like that's when Caitlin and others are usually their most relaxed. We don't get that version of Caitlin very often.
I laughed at her technical foul comment. How many texts you sold Stephanie White for this year?
Dude.
And I'm going to go out on a limb and say I don't think Caitlin Clark was too happy about the result. I don't think the lack of attention Gina Auriemma gave her in high school from a recruiting standpoint, I'm going to say that Caitlin probably wanted the reverse of that national title result.
4.5, I think, was what they said as the over-under for her text. And I was like, I'm slamming the over. First of all, I'm slamming the over because
it's going to hit the over by July 4th.
She's too fiery.
So they're playing more games this year. I believe it will be the most games in a WNBA season.
44, 40, right?
Yeah. So that alone, I'm like, 4 more games than last year means 4 more potential texts for Caitlin Clark. And she's just too fiery. she could do yoga all summer. She could come in, with the Om and all of that.
Namaste.
Exactly. And I would still pick her to get a tech in the first quarter of the first game.
It was a lot of fun to watch. And were you surprised at how UConn just dismantled South Carolina?
I truly was not. I mean, their top-end players are just so much better than South Carolina's, which says a lot because South Carolina is so much deeper than everybody else. But unlike last year, they didn't have a WNBA player on their roster ready to go. Like last year was Camila Cardoso, who went on to play for the Sky, was a top, I believe, 7 pick. They didn't have that. Whereas with UConn, Paige Becker's number 1 pick. Sarah Strong, who's a freshman, should be number 1 pick in 3 years. AZ Fudd, all-time great shooter, can now put on the floor as well. She's going to be probably a top 5 pick in the draft. So, again, that to me was the difference. It's like, okay, South Carolina might have more depth, but UConn, if your high-end stars are that much better than South Carolina stars, then the depth won't even matter because the game won't be close. And they just destroyed them. I mean, they were kicking South Carolina's teeth in. And look, I love Dawn Staley, but when I saw the video of her kind of losing on the bench, I was like, oh.
When she said the bad word?
Yeah, I was like, oh, my good sister. We're gonna get a run out of this for meme purposes and joke purposes because she was going through it. And shout out to their senior class as well, though, because I believe their senior class ended with 2 championships, in 4 years, 3 championship appearances. So, I mean, hell of a class. But this was Paige's time. And for all the things she went through, same with AZ Fudd and the injury she went through, I couldn't be happier for those 2.
Yeah, that will be a meme. I don't know if you saw it, KB, but in the first half, when UConn was flirting with blowing the game away, I think they were just right on the cusp of the double-digit lead. There was like a turnover by South Carolina. It resulted in another basket, and they happened to cut away to Dawn Staley just in time to see her saying the magic word.
She was going through it.
And I felt like when I saw the line on Saturday, I guess it would have been Saturday, or late Friday into Saturday, I was surprised to see UConn favored by as much as they were. I mean, that was kind of the wake-up call. I mean, if you just go off the seeds, 2 seed versus 1 seed, obviously UConn blasted them in the regular season there, but UConn's big 3. I mean, JB just laid it out. I mean, it's Sarah Strong is a hell of a talent. And
she's a freshman.
I mean, it's
she's like 24, 15, and 5.
She owned the paint last night.
I mean, she can stretch the floor. It's another special talent there for Gino.
I love seeing Tyrese shout him out as well, and Kevin Durant as well. So for all the people out there who are like, man, women's basketball is not even that fun. It's like, well, your best players, your favorite players are watching it, so give it a try.
One other college note, you see Indiana DeVries starts to put his roster together. Reed Bailey, a transfer, Davidson, averages about 18 points a game coming to play for the Hoosiers now.
Yeah, obviously a different level, but I was like, okay, like this dude obviously can score. So I believe that is the 3rd transfer commit they've gotten so far, and a notable one. I know that's a big-time player, so I was excited about that. And this is somebody who should be able to plug and play, and that's what you need at this point. We know the roster isn't going to look like, ideally what you want to build it like in that first year, but, I mean, we're talking about a guy who's 6'11", 210, and can shoot the ball. So I definitely like this pickup a lot. I mean, shot at 41% last year from 3. Now, granted, he didn't shoot a ton of threes, but still – has the ability to go out there and play some good basketball.
Yeah, I watched a few highlights. I get where people are like, hey, do you see a little Danny Wolf in his game from Michigan this past season? I understand where that's coming from. I think there are some whispers that could be getting a shooter from Sam Houston State that put up some insane numbers here. So, April is kind of when this activity really, really picks up. I know they had some misses early on. Josh Dix, who we talked about a little bit, he committed to Creighton. I think that happened after our show on Friday. We'll see about Nigel Pack. I saw he was rumored to have some interest with Indiana. We should mention a couple local names. Xavier Booker will stay in the Big Ten. As shocking as that sounds, that means UCLA, as crazy as that is.
I'll never get used to that.
And Flory Badunga staying at Kansas. So that was a name that I think some Indiana fans had some thoughts about there. So Flory Badunga back to Kansas with, I assume, an increased payday.
And that's just where we are now in college basketball. Every year this time of year, we're just going to be talking about guys that are changing schools and who's going to keep this guy and where's he going to go and all those kinds of things. It's just, I don't know, does it settle down once we get some actual real NIL rules and salary caps and things like that? Does it start to settle down? And do we start to see guys sign contracts with schools?
I'm just curious to see how you regulate it. Like, what rules are there going to be? How do you make it fair for every school? I remember listening to some, I forget what school specifically, but like mid-major programs saying, like, should we get, a bonus whenever one of our guys goes to one of these high major programs because we groomed them or we prepared them for this next level? Are you open to that? I just think that it's because the NCAA dragged their feet. So now you got to, kind of deal with what you made for yourself. Like, if you'd have been proactive with this stuff and not so stingy, maybe we wouldn't be in this position. But at this point, I would expect anybody that has a relatively, a B-level season, C-plus season to opt out every year. If I'm Flory, I'm opting out every year. I'm sorry. Give me the bag. Like, matter of fact, I'm not sorry. That's just the nature of the business. Now, some can roll their eyes at it and talk about loyalty and all that, but until, like you said, Jeff, there are some rules in place, I'm going to bend the rules to my will and what helps me financially for the long term, because a lot of these guys aren't going pro. I mean, not to the NBA at least. And so if you can maximize your dollars now while you're in college, why wouldn't you?
For those that didn't stay up last night, Pacers get a great win out in
Ooh,
Denver.
Lord.
Rick Carlisle, of course, will join us coming up tomorrow at 8. 4 left for the Pacers. They're on the verge of clinching home court. They got magic numbers just 2 to get at least the 4 seed. It pretty much looks like that's where they will be heading. If you'd have told me at the start of the night, Jokic will have a triple-double by the midway point of the third, Halliburton's going to score 9, and Siakam's not going to play, I would say, I've watched this movie before in Denver, and it's not going to end well for the Pacers. I thought the bench was so key to start the fourth, and that's always kind of a I feel like it's always a hot button topic with fans of like how long do you stick with your bench lineup, and certainly that'll be a big topic when you get to the playoffs. Last night that bench unit, they usually get a little bit of Halliburton or Siakam sprinkled into it, but you didn't have that last night because Siakam was, of course, out. So it was like a McConnell, Mathurin, I think Neesmith might have been the only starter, Thomas Bryant with them, and then Jarris Walker. And, Walker over the last few weeks, not only has he earned consistent playing time, boy, I think he's almost earned a spot in the playoff rotation, which you typically only go, 8 deep, something along those lines. Carlisle actually went back to him late in the fourth quarter last night. He actually put Toppin on the bench late, who was playing outstanding, and had Walker there when Denver made a little bit of that run. And I thought Walker was key again in just helping you stave off that late Nuggets run there. So great work by the bench last night out there in Denver.
As you pointed out, Rick Carlisle was also incredibly impressed with his bench last night.
A night like tonight, a guy like Tyrese, who's been throwing up huge numbers, could get really frustrated. They're committing 2 to him every single time, but he saw what was happening. The attention to him was bringing great shots to other guys, and so that kept everybody into it, and it gave us a lot of energy. And he made some big plays down the stretch of the game.
Got to have that going into the postseason, Kevin. Got to have bench play.
Well, especially, if teams are going to, commit, the 2 to try and limit Tyrese, sure, you want to see more than, 3 of 8 and 9 points, but your others are going to have to step up. And whether it was, Nembhard at the huge bucket late, Neesmith, I think, continues to be a guy you can rely on in the fourth quarter. That was a big time win. I mean, you don't have a lot of these games on the schedule to where it's like, oh yeah, they're playing most of their frontline guys. You're playing most of your frontline guys. They're going to be in the playoffs. You're going to be in the playoffs. You're on the road. Those types of games haven't really popped up on the Pacers schedule a whole lot. Unfortunately, like you won't get it with Cleveland this week in all likelihood. So these kind of playoff tests, they don't happen a whole lot. I think the Pacers treated last night like it, and I thought they responded well after a slow start. I mean, that first quarter, it was not pretty. Jokic was absolutely killing them. The Pacers played all 3 centers in the first quarter there, but they were able to kind of hang in there, and then, again, made the necessary plays in the fourth quarter.
Respect to my boy, Miles Christian Turner. I got to give him the full name there. He played like a grown man last night in Denver, and really over the weekend had a really great 2-game stretch there to help the Pacers keep their win streak alive. And I thought he made some big shots, kept the floor spaced and stretched. And every time I think that it might be going through a little bit of a lull, or it's like, man, like, is he giving him enough? He has these types of games that kind of remind you that, ho-hum, he will show up. So, Miles has seen pretty much every version of this Pacers team with different coaches, different players. And so to be a part of the team that, I believe we'll have, knock on wood here, home court advantage in the playoffs, considering the last time they had it, I mean, he's been here such a long time. He actually posted a picture, or I believe a fan did, and he responded to it where he was shaking Kobe's hand, like in a layup line or something like that, or after a game. And I'm like, man, like that's how long he's been in the NBA and doing his thing here in Indiana. So shout out to Miles for another big game last night, and I'm sure he's excited for what's to come in the postseason.
Well, home court-wise, they've won 11 of 12 at home. The one loss is LeBron's tipping.
Yeah.
So you have played very, very well on home court. I get that, again, playoff competition is a little different here, but certainly the Pacers are in a position to right now it looks like Pacers-Pistons, and I know the Bucks are certainly right there, that they could be the 5 seed as well. But right now, the Pacers certainly look like they'll have home court here in round 1.
Well, it's going to be a lot of fun to watch over the last 4 games. 3 at home this week for the Pacers, their final 3 home games of the regular season. Washington tomorrow night, Cleveland on Thursday, Orlando on Friday. They finish up at Cleveland on Sunday. Either one of those games, KB, do you think that Cleveland rests a lot of their players? Maybe the last game of the year?
Have they clinched the one? I'm pretty sure they were right there. If they haven't already done that. And again, Mitchell last night, I think he came back, but he did turn his ankle. Maybe they would play him Thursday. I don't know if you would want, if you're Cleveland, to like go that long without playing your frontline guys. But I mean, Sunday, there's no way that they'd be playing them. The one thing about the NBA,
they've clinched the division. They haven't clinched the number 1 overall.
Yeah, it looks like they need one more win.
So I mean, that could be done by Thursday. That's what a win for them, or a Boston loss. So
yeah.
But having said that, if you're JB Bickerstaff, or not JB Bickerstaff, if you're what's his name, Kenny Atkinson, you do have like a full week off in between the regular season and the playoffs. It's a little different from how much time you do have off there. So this week the Pacers could be looking at a team destined for the lottery in Washington. We'll see about Orlando on Friday, and we'll see how much the Pacers want to treat this week. I mean, Siakam, we've been waiting for, again, if and when he's going to have that night off. Last night he did it due to the elbow. Does he sit tomorrow night as well? Do you sit anybody else here to close out the regular season, especially if you do wrap things up here, by Thursday or Friday?
Yeah, Pacers won 125-120 over the Nuggets last night. Coming up in a minute, it is Masters Week. The one and only Will Haskett stops by to tell us what to expect as we continue next on the Fan Morning Show, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Oh, KB, music to your ears right there.
So elegant.
Do you think this is what welcomes you into heaven?
I was gonna say, you could like walk down the aisle to this.
I think everybody gets welcomed in their own special way. Don't you?
James Boyd, you're on to something. How did I not think of that about 7 or 8 years ago?
Good stuff. I'll tell you who may enjoy this week as much, if not more than you, is our next guest, Will Haskett, who does a great job on PGA Tour Radio and has been covering the sport for quite some time and is as plugged in with the players and also statistically speaking golf as anybody I've ever met. Joins us now on the Payless Liquors hotline. Good to talk to you again, Will. How you been, buddy?
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me. KB, we need to – when you guys reached out and said, let's do this at 8 a.m. on Monday morning, we got to pump the brakes a little bit. It's a long week. We can get hyped up today. We're a long way from those first tee times on Thursday. It's kind of like by 1 o'clock on Thursday afternoon, you've consumed so much golf this week for most casual golf fans that you really worry if you're going to be able to make it all the way to the finish line on Sunday. So slow burn. Let's not get too overwhelmed. It is just 8 a.m. on a Monday.
Yeah, as much as I didn't need to hear that, I probably did need to hear that. Yeah, it's a little bit of a Usain Bolt sprinting the first mile of the Boston Marathon. I will say this, Will, what I love about this week especially is like tonight with the national title, it forces my brain away from live. Like I could watch live from on Golf Channel literally 77 times here between now and Thursday. So thank you that the sports calendar, make sure that my brain has got to get away from Augusta for at least a couple hours on Monday night.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got, the game tonight, and most of the people that are covering it for CBS, especially behind the scenes, are in San Antonio, and then they'll all jet over to Augusta coming up tonight as well. So, yeah, at least the sports calendar allows sort of a distraction at the beginning of the week, and probably good today because I think Augusta is supposed to get hammered with all of the rain that we've experienced here in central Indiana over the last couple of days. Today is the day that the course gets dumped on before, I think, a pretty good week of weather. Cool, but it should be pretty good, and I think the azaleas will be popping on your HD television later on this week.
I feel like you've made this analogy pretty well before of trying to, for our audience out there that doesn't really care about golf, I tend to think if you're a sports fan, this week is one of the few weeks that you would, kind of whatever. I can bond with the crazy golf nerds like you or I. Whether it's a Derby, whether it's the 500, how do you make that analogy to, again, the one-off historic nature to what this event is?
Yeah, I think the 500 is a really good comparison, and it works especially in our market to sort of describe things. And I've been on these airwaves a lot over the last couple of years as it relates to, and hopefully we don't have to get into much of it today, the PGA Tour and the LIV beef, which I think has been about as close to a sports civil war as the IndyCar kart or IRL kart split of now 30 years ago. And so there's been a lot of, I guess, sort of parallels to open wheel racing here in Indianapolis as it relates to, golf fandom. I would say we get probably more than one big event a year that draws people's attention. We have a Ryder Cup coming up later this year. There's obviously 3 other majors. There's been some really, really good golf tournaments so far this year, whether it's the PGA Tour or even, LIV this past weekend had a pretty good showing in Miami for their sort of domestic debut this year. So we've had some good golf for the diehard fans, but, nothing like this week. The ratings always sort of prove it. And I think that there's something to that tradition to, knowing every single hole. You can ask a casual fan to describe one of the holes on the back nine at Augusta National, and they'll be able to do that for you, which I think is a big part of it. And I don't mean to get off into a side tangent, but we're in an era right now in golf where the players are overvalued, and many of them are leveraging being overvalued. And there's going to be an individual star this week, but the reason why people are tuning in is to watch sometimes to them anonymous golfers play on what is the most pristine piece of property in the sport. And I think we lose sight of all of the other reasons why people are attracted to it than just, X player is really good at golf.
Yeah, I feel like I'd be terrified to walk on the grass or even just stand anywhere near.
You should be. Yeah, you should be. Yeah.
This reminds me when we went to.
It's like the breakers again for you.
No,
James,
seriously. I remember we went to Green Bay this past year, and Lambeau, they don't play about the grass after the game. Anybody going out there do live shots, if you're a cameraman, they were very adamant about you getting off the grass. So I respect it. But I want to know it's hard to predict, obviously, but. Could this be Rory's year? I mean, he's had a runner-up finish 2022. It's kind of eluded him at the Masters. He's playing well this year so far. So how would you gauge his level of play coming into this thing?
It's the perfect storm for Rory to win this golf tournament. And the only thing that's going to probably get in Rory's way, and this is oversimplifying it, is himself. He has to get off to a good start on Thursday. If you look at champions of the Masters this century, only Tiger Woods has the track record of being behind early and being able to come from behind to win. And that's just, a measure of his greatness. And really at the time, how much better he was in the field is that he could just sort of ease his way into a golf tournament. You need to be in the top 10 after Thursday if you want to win this golf tournament. I think that's a fair statement to make just based off of what we've seen. And Rory McIlroy, when it comes to these types of events that he wants to win, whether it was the Open Championship in Ireland a few years ago, it's back at Royal Portrush this year when Shane Lowry won, an Irishman winning the Open in Ireland was a pretty cool story. But that week began with, can Rory do it? And what did he do? He snap hooked his opening tee shot out of bounds and was playing catch up the rest of the way and never had a chance. And so how he gets off to a start on Thursday, I think will say a lot, because I think even with a Scottie Scheffler in the field and a few other players, I'm not picking Rory McIlroy, I don't think, to win this week, but he's the best player in the world who's going into this tournament. So it's really just, can he handle the pressure and the expectation of it? Because, James, to that question, we all know it's the career Grand Slam for Rory if he wins the Masters. We've been talking about it now for a really long time. I really think he's going to get his Masters when he doesn't have the spotlight on him. He shows up with okay form, but he's not going to have that attention. It'd be really nice if Scottie Scheffler was still winning every golf tournament he teed it up in, because then we'd be talking about his greatness at all this week. But, yeah, it's going to be, can Rory finally do it? Because he's playing well enough. And he won the Players, which is, a great tournament, a deep field, and one of the hardest golf courses to separate yourself on. And if you win there, you're playing some of the best golf in the world going into a place where you think he'd be tailor-made for it. So I'm just scared of all the expectations, honestly, because we've seen what expectations can sometimes do to Rory when it comes to those final few holes.
The great Will Haskett on the Payless Liquors Hotline, PGA Tour Radio, where you can find Will's work, and he is with us as Masters Week is here. I think this time last year, Will, we had you on either Monday or Tuesday of this week, and I asked, and I think you did a great job of it, comparing a little bit of UConn's run to the national title last year to Scottie Scheffler's form entering Augusta, and maybe even a Purdue analogy, making it to the title game, to Rory McIlroy as well. I don't know if you have more March Madness related analogies up your sleeve, but maybe if we remove ourselves from Scheffler and Rory, the two overwhelming favorites, the other pool you would look to has what in it here heading into this week?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think if you steal the phrase of, now we've seen the transfer portal and NIL era sort of usher in this top seed, top heavy sort of nature of college basketball. And I think, this particular Butler graduate, laments the loss of sort of Cinderella type stories. I don't think we're going to see that as it relates to the men's basketball tournament for the foreseeable future, because you can go and buy a guard from Iona and ride his brilliance all the way to a national championship run, which honestly I think is good for the sport and what we've seen from Walter Clayton Jr. I'll get back to your metaphor here, your extended metaphor. But I think that's sort of there's some parallels to golf in the fact that right now everything is so star-driven. What LIV has done to disrupt the sport, what it has done to sort of drive, eyeballs and attention to marquee events and shrinking of fields on the PGA Tour next year and a whole bunch of other things, is that we're really focused on star power. And so when we have 4 number 1 seeds, make it to the Final Four this year in the men's tournament, I really think the bucket of players is super small that we should be looking at of guys that can win this golf tournament. And so you're right. It's Scheffler and it's Rory. The question is, who do you make your other 2 1 seeds? And that sort of becomes your 4-pack of players. I think Colin Morikawa has been the best player in the world to not win since the beginning of last year. There's no debating that. He's the best player in the world, statistically speaking, this season, and he hasn't won as it relates to scoring average to the field. And he's one of the best iron players of his generation, going to a golf course that demands great iron play. So I think he gets thrown in as another sort of 1 seed. The question then becomes, is it Rahm? Is it Bryson? Which of the sort of the LIV stars do you throw in there? Or do you take another PGA Tour player? So I guess the other 1 seed is sort of up for debate. And I'm not sure which 1 seed from the men's tournament would have been that one that was up for debate this year to sort of make that run. Maybe Florida. I don't know. But you don't really have, I say, a dominant 1 seed. You had 4 really good 1 seeds that you knew could make the Final Four, and I think you have 4 really good potential 1 seed type guys at the Masters, and I would probably take them. You give me 4 guys, throw whatever guy in with that Morikawa, Rory, Scheffler. I'm not taking the field against that quartet.
Will Haskett joining us on the Payless Liquors hotline. How about my boy Ludwig Aberg? Does he have a shot? Because I really want to see him break through.
Yeah, he does have a shot. He played really well at the beginning of this season. He won a signature event at Torrey Pines when it was supposed to be at Riviera because of the fires out there. Oberg making that run last year, to being a runner-up finish when it was. It's just been a little bit scrappier, I would say. Like when he's played well this year, it's been really, really good. But then his finishes since his win at the Genesis, outside the top 20 at Bay Hill, the Arnold Palmer, and then back-to-back missed cuts, including this past week in San Antonio. So could he show up? Absolutely. He drives it beautifully. Battled some illness this year, but really one good performance, and everything else has been sort of mediocre. So is it his time to win a major? I wouldn't be surprised if he did it, Jeff, to be honest with you. But when you look at his actual form, you can't really fake it and show up and win a Masters. And I understand that he has won, but outside of that win, everything else has been average or below average over the last 2 months, and that would be my only concern for Oberg, who's going to win majors, probably win multiple majors if he stays healthy in his career. That's how good he is.
So I'm always curious about this. What does your prep look like? How do you prepare for moments like this?
This week my workload's actually kind of light. I'm not on the coverage for the radio side of things for a particular week on the PGA Tour or wherever it might be, or say a major coming up. I'll be at the PGA Championship next month down at Quail Hollow in Charlotte. Yeah, I think a week of preparation is really understanding the golf course sometimes more than the golfers. When you're around them each and every week, who's playing well. It's just like what sort of skill set set up particularly for that course. How's the course going to play from a weather standpoint? If you get into the weeds of gaming and gambling and everything is kind of interwoven, I think, in golf. Golf's always been a really good sport when it comes to the betting market. So you have a lot of interest and there's so much statistical data, James, in golf that it sort of informs how you talk about guys and what their chances might be. So in a roundabout way, I think it's understanding the golf course first and then looking at, where guys are in terms of their form and their play going into that, and then sort of trying to find the secret sauce, which is, how is it going to stack up? This is a particular week where the field isn't necessarily as strong because it's smaller compared to most major championship fields. And because experience and elite ball striking really matters on this golf course, you can eliminate a lot of people. This is the easiest major to handicap, I think, each and every year compared to the other ones because there's just less variables like you get from an Open or a U.S. Open where you can have guys that are playing really well that qualify. There aren't even top 100 players in the world, and they can contend when it's all said and done.
Who's your pick, Will?
I'm going with Colin Morikawa. He has to win something big, and he has to win something big soon. Nobody can play at the level that he has played at for the last 18 months without winning a golf tournament. And so if you believe in the law of averages, he's going to win multiple times this year. And I just think he's been there. He's been so close to winning a couple of big times this year and last year. It just feels like it's sort of his time. So the putter scares me at times, but I'm going to go away from the two-headed monster that is sort of this Rory-Scotty narrative showdown, and I'm picking Colin Morikawa.
All right, buddy. It's always good to hear your voice, man. Great job as always. We'll be looking forward to a big week at Augusta. I know Kevin is going to be glued to the TV all week long.
Thank you, Will.
I'm sure Kevin will be texting me for the next 72 hours nonstop.
Texting, calling. I'd be FaceTiming, honestly.
Anything to kill time until the tournament starts.
People forget, the Morikawa pick. Him and Scheffler were tied with, I think, 10 to go last year. And I know that Scheffler ran away with it on the back nine, but he was right there. So I cannot wait. And Mark, thank you for that entry here to start the 8 o'clock hour.
Yeah. You don't even need coffee anymore. You're ready to go.
He's good to go.
The pearly gates right there.
He's good to go. He may be wearing his golf shoes into the studio before.
Oh, you haven't? I don't think you've seen him lately with golf tournaments. Like when there's a big golf tournament on, like he wants that TV on. He's staring off into space and everything. So
multitasking to the full extent coming up.
And then the one time you took vacation was when Scotty Scheffler got arrested. And it's like we could have used you when you were out on the West Coast.
Gosh, I forgot about that. Yeah, I was in Vegas, literally.
Yeah.
I
That
woke
was
up and
still
thought
the
it was a scene
strangest
from The
thing.
Hangover.
It was
Yeah.
weird.
It's like, is this real? Should I call Kevin? Get his thoughts?
The only thing I could stop him, Louisville PD.
That's right. One thing we haven't mentioned much today, I just want to point it out real quickly. An incredible feat in the world of sports last night. Wayne Gretzky no longer has the record for the most goals scored in the National Hockey League. Alex Ovetkin, who down the stretch here at the end of this regular season just went on a tear over the last week and a half, and now has 895 goals to become the all-time leader in goals scored in the National Hockey League. KB, where do we put that in the pantheon of, like, no one ever thought that record would ever be touched?
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit last week. It's like, DiMaggio 56-game hit streak, I feel like, is like the kind of the top of the unreachable, if you will. And again, I'm not going to pretend for 1 minute that I am some hockey aficionado. I certainly am nowhere near that, but it does seem like people hold this record, in similar regard. And just watching the celebration of it all, and Wayne obviously in the building yesterday of it, this is not some, if you want to make the golf analogy, Ovetkin is not walking up the 18th hole. He still is playing at an extraordinarily high level.
He might play another 1 or 2 years, actually.
Yeah. So, again, I'm not going to pretend to know anything more than that, but it seems amazing.
The points record overall for Gretzky still seems unreachable. I think Ovechkin's still like 1,000 points short of that or something like that.
I mean, you just got to keep at it, I guess. Keep chipping away. But me and my buddies were joking about this. It's like, do you think Wayne Gretzky's like happy he finally broke it because he doesn't have to go to like every single game anymore and be in the building for it? But exciting stuff. And again, I feel like Alex Ovetkin isn't like that demonstrative all the time. So to see him kind of just like, I mean, obviously you've seen him win big games, win it all, but to lose it, I mean, they're losing the game in that moment. But when he scores, it's like it doesn't matter. I broke this record. I'm, one past the legend, so that was cool to see.
So he walked into his after party last night, immediately was handed 2 beers. I'm like, there's no more hockey celebration than that. Like, all he needed was about.
Keep in mind, I believe he messed up his leg this year or something like that. Like, he was out for a while, came back, and still broke the record. So, congrats to him.
I will say this: after covering all the major sports for all these years, my favorite group of athletes off ice, court, field, whatever it is. Hockey players are just unbelievably down to earth. They are who they are. Most of them grew up traveling on buses in Canada or the Soviet Union somewhere, just trying to get from hockey game to hockey game. And it's just, there's nothing better than a hockey player off the ice. They're just fun. They're good times. It's a lot to take on.
Striking me as the after party that I would want to go to. Probably slightly different than what our Masters champion after party is going to look like on Sunday night.
They drink beer and champagne out of the cup when they get it for the week. I mean, let's go.
Who ate all the spinach dip? Where'd the pimento cheese go?
Exactly. Mark, you are getting some pimento cheese courtesy of Cluster Truck tomorrow, so don't be too high and mighty on that.
No, I had pimento cheese for the first time last year, and it was actually pretty solid.
Excellent.
Not a fan.
No?
No.
Oh, man.
KB, the Pacers win in Denver last night, 125-120. What'd you think?
Well, if you stayed up late, you were rewarded. I thought the bench outstanding to start the fourth quarter. Again, without Siakam, Halliburton doesn't have his video game number night, 9 points, 13 assists. And yet, a multitude of guys delivered. Looking forward to asking Rick Carlisle tomorrow about Jarris Walker, Obi Toppin, certainly. I thought McConnell was key as well. Just big time in a playoff, sort of atmosphere. I don't want to make too much of it, but I think given the schedule, this is one of the games that you circle. Jokic is having a Jokic-type night, and you're able to punch back and win in a place you don't really win in. So, pretty impressive by the Pacers last night.
It has to be. I mean, you look at what Tyrese did, maybe a little bit pedestrian scoring-wise, but still had the assist numbers. And then shout out to Miles Christian Turner, as well as Obi Toppin, who's been playing great this season as well.
My man, Obi Toppin. So they have 4 games remaining. The Pacers do. The next one tomorrow night at home kicks off a 3-game homestand to finish up that portion of the regular season before they finish on the road at Cleveland. That game against Washington begins at 7. Airtime 6:30.
Don't hold the ball.
Don't do that.
I don't want to see that again. And actually, since it's a home game, I might just stop by just in case to give Rick Carlisle a piece of my mind. We'll see.
Wow. You can talk to him tomorrow morning about that, right?
Yes, I will, actually. I'm looking forward to that conversation. They've been playing well, so it'll be a lot more positive than negative. But, I don't duck no smoke, KV, so I'm bringing it up.
Again, the Mental Trust Award going to Rick Carlisle for what they did, or did not do, I should say, to the Wizards.
So here we are with 4 games to go. The Pacers are in the 4th spot in the Eastern Conference. Looks like they're going to stay there. There's 3 games behind the Knicks, but they are 3 in front of the Bucks, who won last night and now occupy that 5th position, KB, by a game over the Pistons.
Yeah, again, it looks like, they're going to be the 4th seed. I get that we have all these, things that are still up in the air, but it looks very much like the Knicks will be the 3, the Pacers will be the 4, and then I guess a little bit of indecision on who that 5 will be. But again, tomorrow night, the Wizards in Gainbridge Fieldhouse.
College basketball last night. The women's season comes to an end. UConn gets its 12th national championship with Gino Auriemma. They crush South Carolina, and tonight it'll be Florida against Houston in the Alamo Dome, JB.
I want to say this real quick. Gino mentioned after the game he thought his team wouldn't make the NCAA tournament because they lost a scrimmage, and I was like, all right, I love stories, but this is a lie, a blatant lie.
Even he laughed at himself when he said that.
I'm thinking, oh, wow, you win a championship, you use the start line. This is awesome. But getting back to the men's side, I mean, it should be a really great game. You have, I believe, what has been the best player in the tournament in Walter Clayton Jr., going up against what I believe to be the best team in the tournament, which is the collective junkyard dog mentality that the Houston Cougars have.
2 hours and 56 minutes across I-10. That is the trip from Houston to San Antonio. I assume that will be a caravan of red throughout today.
How about the players going up to show Hakeem Olajuwon some love after that game? That was really cool.
Yeah, that was certainly a cool scene to see. And again, Houston, I thought, from an emotion standpoint, I am curious tonight. I understandably, they had, obviously a huge reaction to their comeback in that win. I mean, Kelvin Sampson's dancing post-game like you'd be dancing tonight. We're not used to that, I think, from Sampson. So 2 great teams. James, I thought, laid it out very well. Walter Clayton Jr., to me, this run has been a bit Shabazz Napier, Kemba Walker-like. So many big shots he has hit, not just threes. So many big shots he's hit for Florida here to keep this run going. And good luck finishing off Houston. I mean, it is the true 40 minutes. Oftentimes, it can be more than 40 minutes. How will they guard Walter Clayton Jr., and can Florida's others step up? Elijah Martin had that huge dunk there that I thought kind of sparked some things late. Their big guys can stretch the floor a bit. Do you see a little bit of almost what the Nuggets did to Halliburton last night? Do you see the throw to it, Clayton, all night long and make Florida's others beat them? Cannot wait for tonight. Remember, 8:50, a little bit earlier than we're used to here. Still not probably as early as we would like in the Eastern time zone, but better than 9:20 is what it is used to be for the national title.
Couple of baseball notes. The Chicago Cubs lose to the Padres 8-7 yesterday, but they won 2 out of 3 over the weekend, Mark.
I know. They won 5 in a row up until that point.
All right. The Reds struggle again. They lose in Milwaukee 8-2.
Stink would be the word.
Now they head out to San Francisco.
Have the Cubs played at home yet, Mark?
Yeah, they just had that was their
home series.
Yeah. They have the.
They had to be the last team to play a home game.
It was one of the last. Yeah. That, and they have a brutal April. It's like the hardest baseball schedule in April, and then they have a really really easy May. So make hay while you can.
All right. They split a double header over at Victory Field yesterday. Mark, you were there, right?
I was there. No beer bat, though. It was too cold. So I will wait for my beer bat.
God, that's the softest thing that you've ever said.
He's maturing.
Listen, I was carrying one daughter. I'm like, is this really a good look if I have a daughter in one arm and a beer in the other? That's probably not Dad of the Year nominee.
Didn't you see the guy a few years ago that had a daughter in one hand, a beer in the other, and caught the ball?
This is not the Mark Dykton I know. You go on vacation a couple times, and all of a sudden
that's the other thing, too. I had my fill of alcohol on vacation. I was like, I could probably take a Sunday off here.
How many games for the Indians were postponed or delayed this week?
Saturdays got outright canceled, and then, they made up Friday's game because it was a tied game in the 9th inning, and it got postponed then. So they're finishing up the final half of the game on Friday, on Sunday afternoon, and then they had another game. But, rain didn't do any favors for them.
On the road this week, they'll be back at home the 15th coming up here in a week from Tuesday.
Also tonight, Cubs will host the Texas Rangers in an interleague game at 7:40, and the Reds start a West Coast swing. They'll be in San Francisco. 9:45, Kevin. So you at least check in on them while the basketball game is going on tonight.
0 chance Kevin turns a single pitch in.
I can't think of anything I would less like to watch than Reds-Giants tonight.
Denny Hamlin
Spoken
wins.
like a true Reds fan.
Yeah, Denny Hamlin wins in NASCAR yesterday. Big crash, controversy at the very end. Hard to believe, JB, that would happen. Crash, controversy in NASCAR.
Isn't that like just like death taxes in NASCAR? I mean, that's usually how it goes.
That's exactly how it works. All right, coming up in a moment, we'll take more attention to the national championship game a little bit later on tonight. Caitlin Clark on TV last night for the women's national championship game, and we'll talk about the Pacers week ahead as we continue on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. It's always Happy Monday when the Pacers win the night before. We had a national championship game last night as UConn crushes South Carolina in the women's game. Men's tonight, it'll be Houston taking on Florida. But guys, we haven't talked about the Colts at all so far this morning. And JB, you were saying over the weekend you saw little Anthony Richardson online.
Yeah, I believe he did a podcast with one of his passing trainers. It was an interesting listen, and I believe it was called like Built for More is the name of the podcast. It's about an hour long, and it was Anthony, the trainer, and a preacher. So there was a lot of faith elements to it, a lot of scriptures. I feel like if you need to, I don't know, if you want to go to virtual church for a little while and get some football in there, you can definitely kill two birds with one stone. But
sometimes watching Anthony Richardson, there's a lot of prayers being said, so that might fit right in with usual Sunday.
We need more
true.
answered.
Yeah, this is true. They didn't like obviously ask the hard hitting stuff that we would or we will when we see Anthony again. But one of the things that stood out was he was asked about the injuries and the frustration of having to start and stop. And he was saying, yeah, that is something that kind of limits your ability to kind of build on what you've done so far because you're constantly having to reset because of the injuries. So I just wonder how much that weighs on him going into year 3, because as much as we've talked about the inaccuracy, Daniel Jones being brought in, are you a leader, all those things, I think the injuries are the biggest reason why you had to bring somebody in, period. I mean, we could talk about the QB competition all day, but you almost have to build your roster in a way where you expect him to miss 4 or 5 games at this point. And that's unfortunate for him. But it was, interesting to hear his perspective on that. He also talked at length about his motivation, where it comes from. He mentioned his mom, which we all know how she has influenced him as a young man and the things she went through to make sure he was okay. So you can tell he got a little emotional about that. He's like, man, we've been through so much. You don't even know the half of it, which I'm sure we probably never will to a certain degree. But we'll see. I mean, he said and did all the right things on the podcast. It's just, to Mark's point, can you do it on the field?
Anything you picked up? I know you watched a few minutes of it, KB.
Yeah, it was definitely a different listen. I mean, James pretty much laid it out how I
take you to church, KB.
Yeah, it definitely had much more of that feel, not maybe as nitty-gritty football stuff. I mean, there still is a little bit of that in there. One thing to note, I guess, just kind of Colts-wise, as we sit here on April 7th, you will see teams begin their offseason program today. If you have a new coach, you get a couple of extra weeks to the offseason. The Colts will begin theirs coming up 2 weeks from today. The Colts will have their local pro day tomorrow. The local pro day has always been kind of it's a different thing for the Colts. They frankly aren't in a hotbed of area where they get a bunch of NFL talent into their local pro day. One thing to note, James, though, and I'm kind of curious about this. I remember asking Shane Steichen last year. He kind of downplayed it. Late last week, it was announced the offseason program dates for the teams. And for those unfamiliar with how the offseason program works, every team gets I think it's a 9-week program if they would like. Within that program, you get 10 OTA practices and a 3-day mini camp. So you get a 13 practice day regimen, if you will. Those 13 days are not full pads, but they are 11 on 11. So again, 10 are OTAs. Those are technically voluntary. I say that in quotes because pretty much the Colts have had 99 to 100% attendance in all of these OTA sessions. And then you get the mandatory 3-day minicamp. James, I think for the second straight year, the Colts have foregone 3 of their OTAs. This year, they're continuing to do, I believe it's 6 of the 10 OTAs, plus the 3-day minicamp. Now, there are some teams around the NFL that also do this, don't do the full 10 OTAs.
Yeah.
There are others that do the full 10 OTAs. I would assume with a quarterback competition, wouldn't you just want every single day possible? Like Shane Steichen is very much in the, health and recovery. I mean, they do a lot of Wednesday walkthroughs when they get in the regular season, those sorts of things. But I guess I was a little confused to see that for the second straight year, the Colts will not go with the full 10 OTAs. I would think with Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones in this competition, you want to take every rep possible.
Absolutely. I mean, they thought of me with the schedule, and I was like, well, you know what? I don't necessarily want to, get out there too soon because Westfield is hot, and we'll see plenty of reps then. But, yeah, I agree with that, KB. I believe when I tweeted it out, I got a couple of responses like, wait, that's it? Like, this team is doing X, Y, Z, and it's like, look, that's their choice. But I think it, just adds an extra layer of emphasis to making sure you make the most of the reps you get, which has been the theme of this offseason. And, one of the things I want to follow up with Shane and even Chris Ballard to a certain extent is just, what changed? I don't think I asked that question, and that's on me at the owners' meetings was like, I believe I asked, about the shift in mindset. Like, hey, you said at first Anthony needed reps, and now you're saying just make the most of the reps you get. Like, how does it help or hurt him? But what's the why behind that? Like, why I don't want to say sudden, but it does feel like there's been a drastic shift in the approach to him. And maybe it's injuries, maybe it's the inaccuracy, maybe it's a little bit of both, but they certainly pivoted from where they were last season, even a couple of months ago, to now. Again, this seems like the most open QB competition out there, truly. And I think the response that keeps being nailed into my head is, what's the best scenario for you? Well, the best scenario is we get the quarterback out there who wins the most games.
One thing to note on the local pro day, so I don't just mention that and then kind of move on, and James, feel free to add to it. Each team has a local pro day. I believe you're able to bring in prospects that fall in a 90-mile radius. 90 might not be exact, but some sort of radius.
Yeah.
Regional.
Regional is probably a good way to put it. The Colts, that means they can pluck from Purdue, Indiana, and I think your alma mater as well.
Yeah, Illinois.
In Illinois, whereas like Notre Dame's NFL draftees, they go over to the Bears for their local pro day. So we weren't born yesterday. The programs of Indiana and Purdue have not produced a whole lot of NFL talent here recently. Illinois actually has a little bit more. So typically the Colts local pro day, yes, you have your Juju Brents of the world, for example, and, Blake Fisher from Avon, was drafted by the Texans in the second round. You obviously have some of the local guys that either go to high school or college here that can attend the local pro day, but I know you'll be out there tomorrow for that, starting at 10 a.m. The Colts just it's a little different local pro day for the Colts than it is for the Miami Dolphins or the LA Rams or the Dallas Cowboys. Slightly different in the talent pool here in your own backyard. Obviously, you still have some NFL talent, but it's a little bit of a different feel than it is for other NFL teams.
I remember last year at the local pro day, it was pretty warm. I was wearing shorts and they had the garage doors open for the practice field, and I woke up this morning, had to get the scraper out of the car, out of the trunk.
You're going to get that tomorrow.
Yeah, so, I don't know if that's an omen of things to come, but I am sick of this cold weather, y'all. So maybe these guys can warm me up tomorrow with some of their performances. But I think it's always cool. I think to put a button on it or a bow on it, to me, it kind of gives you that perspective of we might joke about, there might not be that much talent or there might not be the big-name guys, but it's still somebody chasing their dream. So I try to treat it with that same respect of the guys showing up and working.
You get a lot of Butler, UIndy, Wabash,
Yeah, you get the local angles.
Guys that played elsewhere, for some lower level colleges. So
Exactly.
it's a great opportunity. I mean, the Colts staff is all out there. I mean, the Colts don't half-ass it. I mean, they have all their guys.
Chris Ballard usually gives a speech beforehand, take advantage of this. Yep.
And the Colts typically will add, I would say, an undrafted free agent or two. I'm trying to think of the UIndy running back they had in and out a little bit here in recent years. Obviously, they drafted Juju Brents. He was at the local pro day a couple of years ago. So it's an unbelievable opportunity for the local draft prospects. But I know a lot of people see that headline and are kind of curious what exactly that means. So it's a little bit of background on the local pro day.
Toriano Clinton.
Thank you. Look at that. It's all over your former Greyhound.
Go Greyhounds.
There you go. And 2 weeks from Thursday, the NFL draft in Green Bay. All right, coming up in just a minute, we'll talk a little bit more about the national championship game and the Pacers as we continue on the Fan Morning Show, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Your bitterness is on display. JB got me covered there, making me wait. You won't even turn my microphone on. You got over there.
Nah, we had enough.
Dude, twice.
Fakes
I made two mistakes over the last couple weeks.
It was a couple more than that, but I'm helping you out.
Come on,
boy.
man. I appreciate that. But I also just heard you promise we'd be talking about national championship.
I mean, we have to, right? This is the night of all nights. I will complain. I know you talked about this in the first hour, KB. Are we complaining about the start time? Yes, I'm complaining about the start time. I am always going to complain about the start time. I complained about it over the weekend with the game times. So I'm the person who will complain to no end, but also watch the entire start to finish and, not even remember that I complained about it.
Will you stay up for one shining moment?
30 minutes earlier. We will get 30 minutes earlier
And
tonight.
it should have been 30 minutes earlier than that.
They'll probably squeeze in 2 more commercial breaks.
Exactly.
Of 5 minutes apiece to get it there. Hey, will you be staying up through one shining moment?
Absolutely. I mean, this is the...
Got to get the Miles Colvin dunk in there, right?
Yeah, got to get the Miles Colvin dunk in there. And also just, knowing Greg Gumbel no longer with us, hearing him or hopefully his voice or how they kind of honor him at the end would be cool too.
That was a really emotional tribute they had during the Final Four matchups on Saturday night. And you can see how much he meant to just the guys that he worked with all the time.
Absolutely. I mean, just a class act, a legend. And I believe he actually went to school in Chicago. So he's kind of from the area that I grew up in as well. So the ties there are strong. And I'm excited to see, one shining moment and how it gets capped off tonight with Houston and Florida.
KB, what do you take from Purdue pushing Houston right to the very brink before getting out if Houston goes on to win the national championship? Is there any solace to be taken there for Purdue fans?
Yeah, you're probably just more frustrated by it, thinking, what could have been in that Elite Eight game.
The push-off?
Yeah.
The stiff arm?
If you are playing for an Elite Eight inside of Lucas Oil Stadium,
a little bit.
Against a Tennessee team that, certainly struggled against Houston. Yeah, I'm not going to act like Purdue would have won 3 more in a row and, been playing tonight, but still. There is a level of you're proud of the effort, certainly, but I think you're also sitting there thinking, man, what could have been. I don't want to act like this was the play of the game, but I ironically thought a big play on Saturday night was the Mason Gillis flagrant that Houston needed some life at some point there, and certainly LJ Cryer provided it. But that sequence there, kind of a little bit past the midway point of the second half, I thought helped ignite that Houston run. And of course there was a slew of plays down the stretch from the inbounds to the Proctor missed free throw, and Duke has 1 field goal in the last 10 minutes. You could summarize it right then and there. But I did think that Gillis flagrant kind of helped Houston get a little bit of, a head above water there before they made their big run.
Also down the stretch, JB, there was a controversial call, at least for Duke fans, where flag was called for a foul when he was tied up with a Houston player. And a lot of people were like, hey, that's just fair play guys going after it. Some people thought it was a bad call. Houston fans thought it was the right call. What'd you make of that one?
The loose ball foul?
Yeah.
I mean, the softest call ever, but at the same time, I'm not going to feel sorry for you. You blew the game. You couldn't break a press. You couldn't inbound the ball.
That's the point right there. They could not break the press. And KB, you had talked about it all week long. You were worried that a lack of a true point guard who just handles the basketball would have come in really handy right then.
Yeah, a big reason why I picked Houston and kind of stuck by them even last week was I don't feel like Duke has, or had, I should say now in the past tense, a traditional point guard, and B, they just haven't been in those situations at all. The ACC was an absolute joke this season. It was a joke at the top of it. It was a joke throughout the depth. So Duke, for the most part, they hardly had any end-of-game situations arise for them, whereas Houston was much more battle-tested. So if you could put that game pressure, which, again, Duke had moments, I thought, in the first half, they could have created a gap that was just too big for the game pressure to be, even possible. But Houston cut it to 6 at halftime, and then again, kind of midway point of the second half, they made that additional run at them. I thought if you put Duke into those moments, they could very well wilt, and boy, that was the epitome of that.
And Florida also had to get through a really tough SEC all year long, and they were able to slay their Dragon JB against Auburn on Saturday night.
Exactly. I thought that Auburn had that game. Well, not had it, but definitely were in control of that game. But then Walter Clayton Jr. woke up and
I thought Auburn looked gassed.
They did
down the stretch.
They did.
And
they
not
ran out of
just
steam.
Broome.
Yeah.
I thought Broome looked hurt, injured, however you want to describe it, but I thought Florida got every loose ball. And I thought the whistle favored Auburn big time there in the last couple of minutes, and it still wasn't enough for them. But yeah, you can't say enough good things about Walter Clayton Jr. I'm hesitant to even say the name out loud, but his shot making at the collegiate level reminds me a bit of Steph Curry. It's just it's a special skill. He's done it on the biggest stages. He's done it, in the second half. I don't know how many people watched the UConn game in round 2, but they were dead in that game. He hit some huge shots to kind of get them out of it. The Texas Tech game in the Elite Eight, and then obviously Saturday night. So if he's able to cap off this run, it will be one of the more special individual runs we've seen, period, in the NCAA tournament. I know there are some stats out there like, Larry Bird put up similar numbers. I mean, it's insane what Walter Clayton Jr. has done.
You made a great point in the last hour, too, KB, about Houston, the fact that they have been able to raise the level of their game on a game-in, game-out basis. When they went to the Big 12, they didn't miss a beat, and they just kept right on going, and they've had to win a lot of tough games and a lot of tough travel and a lot of big-time teams throughout the course of the year to get here as well. Both teams, to use your term, battle-tested, and that's what will make tonight so much fun, is they've both truly earned their way into this game.
I think if you go back to the start of the February, they've won 35 of 36 combined, Florida and Houston. Again, just like do a side-by-side with Houston and Duke's schedules. Both of them beyond tested in the non-conference. Both of them had just loaded non-conference schedules. Duke always very aggressive in the non-conference. But as soon as the Big 12 for Houston and the ACC for Duke appeared on the schedule, it was a little JV versus varsity, frankly, and just how much, from an opponent standpoint, you got tested there. So I think that was a huge factor. But yeah, tonight, and really any of these Final Four matchups would have been outstanding. But the Vegas spread of 1.5, and I hope it lives up to it. We had some great national title games there for a while. UConn obviously didn't provide us with much of that over the last couple of years, but I think tonight has the makings of what could be an absolute thriller.
I will say this. I have one request if Houston wins it all. Don't be the security guard that doesn't let Hakeem Olajuwon on the floor. I don't know if you saw that, but there was a very overzealous security guy who would not let Hakeem Olajuwon on the court to celebrate with the Houston Cougars. And he's like radioing over to whoever else is in command. And I'm like, at some point, common sense has to kick in.
Is this the same security guard that didn't allow Jeff into the combine?
Clearly. He did with a smile on his face.
I was about to say, I think the resumes maybe look a little bit different. And I will say that Jeff certainly didn't pull the Jake and do you know who I am? But in Hakeem Olajuwon's case, he really could say, do you know who I am? Like, I could probably get you fired tomorrow. Like, what are you doing? And so I think there should just be a common sense rule in all of life, and that's an instance of that. But I just couldn't believe it. I was like, wow, you really care about this job. That is nuts. Like how many 7-footers are pretending to be Hakeem Olajuwon?
Will Anthony Richardson be in the building tonight?
Yeah. Mark, this is right in your wheelhouse. 1.5-point favorite, Florida. Where are you at? Will you be making
Florida.
A play?
I like Florida.
You got a parlay going on tonight or just straight up?
Straight up. Let's not get crazy.
140.5 for the over-under for those that care about that. That start, the Florida-Auburn start on Saturday night, that was one of the faster-paced first 5-6 minutes of the game. Sometimes I feel like you get into the Final Four sessions like, bigger arena and, are there Final Four nerves? None of that from Auburn and Florida. Now, both those teams cooled off a bit there, but that over-under is a little bit bigger than we're used to with Houston. Houston, oftentimes, they want it rock fighty, and they want the first to, 60, 65 to kind of win that game. Florida certainly wants the pace at more of a probably 80-point level there. So that'll be something to keep an eye on.
How many times did Florida and Auburn actually play this year? Was it 4?
No, I thought 3? It was just once outside of the Final Four.
I thought they played twice during the regular season.
I thought Florida beat Auburn at Auburn, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken. But, yeah, I'd have to go back and double-check that.
All right, so that'll be coming your way later on tonight. Again, a late start, but a little earlier than normal. It doesn't bother you either way, JB. You're good.
I mean, I'm going to complain about it.
Stays up till midnight pretty much annually. I mean,
that don't mean I want to stay up watching basketball until midnight. I want to be able to watch the game and then binge watch whatever show that I'm, putting off. I got a routine. There's a science behind this, KB.
I'm telling you, there's a 50-50 chance that I watched the last 10 minutes of that game in one shining moment at about 5 a.m. tomorrow morning.
You on your own with that. The last game of the season, Jeff? The biggest game of the season? There's no way.
But if you don't know what's going on, you pick up right where you left off.
Man.
So
you're telling
you're gonna
me
get 6 hours of sleep.
So
and
you're
move right
telling
back
me
in.
I don't know how people do that. Don't you wake up like at 3 a.m. to pee, and aren't you like curious what happened?
No, you just
You're
go right
not?
back to sleep.
So you're telling me if this game is
you got
tied
a
with 10
different
minutes
brain than I
left,
do.
you're like, you know what? I can cut it off right here and watch it in the morning.
Yes, because
No
I'll
way.
be far more alert and able to really break it down.
Why don't you
No.
get a nap in earlier in the day? Like, take a nap.
I'm not that old yet, Mark. I'm not taking naps.
Well,
in
no,
the-
but if
I
you're
like
going to go
naps,
to bed
but-
with 10
that's
minutes
no,
left, take a nap.
I'm taking a nap after this show to
Yeah.
get prepared for it. Absolutely. And I'm 29. So
Naps
hey,
have no age restrictions.
there you go.
No, I'm a big fan of naps, but I don't know. I don't mind watching the end of games. So pick them right back up at 5 o'clock in the morning.
Let's take a poll on this. I should put a
No.
Twitter poll out and be
I
like,
cannot
who
do
would
that.
do this?
That's like the Colts on a Sunday night game. Like, no, I'll just watch it later.
The pain is what makes it worth
Yeah.
it, Jeff. I remember the 6 overtime Syracuse UConn
you
game.
get back to me in 30 years and let me know how that's going
Eric
for you.
Devendorf?
Okay.
Hey, everyone always says that. My dad stays and watches these games. Takes a nap before, watches the game. Like,
Okay.
shout out to
Well,
Pops, man. Turned 65 this year.
Everyone's got their own thing. All right, coming up in a minute, we'll talk more about that national championship game coming up tonight. But the Pacers rolling over with another big win on the road last night, setting themselves up for the postseason. We'll talk all about that as we continue on the Fan Morning Show, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
KB and Jeff.
Nice seal by Hask. Trips it up. Gets it to go. What the harm. What a seal to get the inbound toughness personified. And it's over. A return to national prominence for the Gators. Long one. James knocked away. Knipple. Back outside. Proctor tosses it up. It's no good. The dream remains alive for the Houston Cougars. Here is Ovetkin. Shoots. He scores. He scores. Number 895.
And there's the buzzer. It's an even dozen for Gino Auriemma and Connecticut. The final page in the Book of Beckers is title number 12 for UConn.
Nembhard strong drive, right side, pull up 15 feet away, and Nembhard with 19 points has given the Pacers a 4-point lead.
Man, oh man, if you're a sports fan and didn't have fun this past weekend over the past 3-4 days, I don't know what to tell you, JB. That's as good as it gets.
I mean, Mark, get me in the mood with, hated to love it, the underdogs on top. I haven't heard that song in a while, Mark.
That's a good one.
That was a good
It's
one.
always good.
And I will say there's no underdogs in this game. These are top dogs duking it out for the Natties. So I'm excited for this one, for sure.
Yeah, this has been chalky on both sides, the men's and the women's. UConn was... We joked about it. Gino Auriemma coming in as a number 2 seed. He was the Cinderella of the group at the Final Four there. And, of course, all 4 number 1 seeds for the men, and Florida and Houston coming out on top. And that one starts later on tonight. We're looking forward to that. But I also want to talk right now about the Pacers. That's a nice win to pick up on the road in Denver last night, 125-120. That's not been an easy place for them the last several years, Kev.
No, not at all. And just Denver as an opponent in general, no matter where the game has been. But, yeah, if you'd have told me at the start of yesterday, no Siakam, Halliburton scores 9, Jokic has a triple-double at the midway point of the third quarter, I would have said, how much did the Pacers lose by? So, yeah, that's a very impressive win. Certainly to do it on the road. The bench has had a little bit of a volatile nature to it here over the last month and a half. I thought they were super key. Jokic went to the bench at the end of the first quarter, and I think when he came back in the game in the second, the lead was the exact same for Denver. It was 9 when he left, and it was 9 when he came back in. Let's say the Pacers play Milwaukee coming up in the playoffs. Like, those non-Giannis minutes, you have got to take advantage of that. And so last night, when they didn't do that with Jokic, I thought, you can't play with fire. Well, then Jokic goes to the bench at the start of the fourth, and I think the lead was at that point, I think Denver maybe led by 2 or the Pacers led by 2. It was a very small margin. And when he came back in, the Pacers had stretched that to nearly double figures. And so they certainly got another opportunity of it, and they took advantage of it. I thought the bench was really, really good. And again, bench minus Siakam or Halliburton with it. It was a Nesmith with the bench group. We're not used to that combination at all. McConnell, Walker, Mathurin, Thomas Bryant against his former team. All of them really, really good. So, yeah, I would say one of the more notable Pacer victories of the entire season.
Absolutely. I mean, this was impressive game. I thought Andrew Nembhard with the ankle-breaking snatch back at the end to kind of give them a cushion. The shot over Aaron Gordon, I was like, man, he's such a good player. And, again, the Aaron Nesmith contract looks better and better by the day. I'm looking at, the list of players who were in the 50, 40, 90 club, which I believe – Aaron Nesmith is on pace for this season, 50% from the field, 40 from 3, 90 from the free throw line.
It's a short list.
You look at the guys who are on it, it's Larry Bird, Mark Price, Reggie Miller, Steve Nash, Kevin Durant, Stephen Curry, Malcolm Brogdon, former Pacer, Kyrie Irving, and, again, Kevin Durant. So it's like that is rare air, and most of these guys are Hall of Fame level talent, save for a guy like Malcolm Brogdon. But, again, that level of efficiency from a role player and his ability to just continue to raise his level of play is pretty exciting stuff. And I think it speaks to just the level of talent in the NBA, because this is a guy who couldn't break the rotation in Boston, and now he's, again, someone I'm sure a lot of teams would love to have.
Heading down the stretch
Did you finish the game, by the way, Jeff? Did you watch that live, the Pacers game, or did you go to sleep?
I did watch that live.
Well, they're asking. They
Was
want
the
to
last-
know.
It was I happened to be awake to watch that
It went
last
a bit
night.
late.
Yes.
We don't know.
Look, I'm
Jeff,
telling you,
we gonna
there's
get you
a-
over to my side. I'm gonna turn you
there
into a
is a-
vampire by the end of this show.
There is a chance that I will make it to the one shining moment tonight because I get caught up in the game sometimes and the adrenaline gets flowing. I'm just saying.
One shiny moment's a different animal. That's a half hour after the game.
It's usually like 45 minutes. Believe me, I've over the last
That
few
you can
years
catch
been
the
able
next
to do
day.
that. But I wanted to talk more about the NBA. Heading down the stretch here, like the Milwaukee Bucks without Dame Lillard, Kevin, they have not just folded up the tent and hope that he's going to be coming back in time for the postseason. Like they're playing pretty good basketball right now.
I want to go back to Pacers for just one more second because I do think the story of Jarris Walker is something to bring up here.
Yes.
At the end of the season, and again, I don't want to overreact to like a month and a half, but it was looking like for the better part of this season, Jarris Walker second in the NBA, that we'd get to the end of the year and we'd say, what is Jarris Walker? Where does he fit on this roster? Is that a top 10 pick that is not really going to find? I mean, to James' point, could Jarris Walker have been a little bit Aaron Nesmith-like in Boston? Nesmith was stuck behind, obviously, great players. I don't want to act like maybe Walker stuck behind those types of talents, but, Siakam certainly wasn't on the roster when you drafted Jarris Walker in the top 10. But for him to not only have played like he has, but last night, Rick Carlisle went back to him late for Obi Toppin. And Obi Toppin was arguably the Pacers' best player, certainly for the better part of the first half last night. So, when Walker subbed in for Toppin there late, I mean, we're talking 4 or 5 minutes ago in the game, I had to do a double take. I'm like, did I miss it? Does Obi have 4 or 5 fouls? I was a little confused by it. So that's a question I want to throw Rick's way when he joins us coming up at 8 o'clock tomorrow about, okay, Jarris Walker has not only earned minutes, but like he's earned valuable minutes.
Yeah.
And again, Siakam obviously was out last night. So I do think for those that care big picture, or even right now, Walker making threes off the dribble last night and 11 points and 6 rebounds off the bench against that type of team.
Look good.
I don't think we should overlook that.
And also, I know you pointed this out throughout the season, KB. I thought defensively, over the last however many games, he's looked a lot better on that end of the floor. And you really see it in person. When I've gone to these games in person, I'm like, okay, he knows where to be. He's not having these lapses. And so does that give you more trust from the coaching staff to go out there and garner some more minutes?
All right. I want to talk about Milwaukee because I do think they're going to make the 5th seed right now. I didn't when the weekend started, but they just keep rolling along. They win in New Orleans last night, not a juggernaut, but they win at 111-107. But without Dame Lillard, they had a game or two where they had to kind of collect themselves, but they've collected themselves, and they're 1 game up on Detroit now for that 5th spot, and looking more and more, Kevin, as if they're going to be the first-round opponent, and this is an opponent the Pacers have struggled with.
Yeah, and I know I'm in the minority on this. I think James honestly might be one that disagrees with me on it. I think you've said you'd rather play Milwaukee than Detroit. I'm on the reverse, and last night is just another reminder why of like, Denver without Murray. I mean, they're right there at Jokic and Giannis can fall out of bed and do that bleep. I mean, it's just, it is, Giannis had a game last week with like 35, 17, and 20. I'm like, what are these numbers?
That's just their game.
Right. And I just still think Detroit will hit a little bit of a playoff deer in headlights look to it. I don't, I'm not sold on them walking into the postseason and been there, done that. Whereas, again, Milwaukee they do have a cheat code. Now, do I think the Pacers would lose to them in a 7-game series? I don't. But I think Giannis has that ability to where he can go win you a game or two single-handedly. And I think when you get in the postseason and you're not playing on these back-to-backs, and certainly Giannis is going to have, I would say, uber amounts of motivation from not playing last year in the postseason, you can play Giannis 43, 40 minutes a night because you don't play, every night or every other night.
Yeah.
Even. You have some big breaks there. So, again, I'm probably a little bit in the minority on this, but I don't know if I love seeing Milwaukee as the 5 seed versus Detroit.
But to your point about Jokic and the numbers he puts up, last 3 games, 61, 10, and 10, loss. 33, 9, and 12, loss.
I hear you.
41, 13, 15,
you
loss.
and I know this, man. When Jokic threw that ball away late, if Jokic does, and again, Christian Brown pretty much ran into him. if that, like, let's just play this out. Jokic starts backing whoever was guarding him, Turner down, and he kicks it out, and Michael Porter Jr. hits a three, and you lose.
Yeah, I agree.
It's like those dudes are just different.
I agree.
They've been there, done that on the highest stage. Where like, is Cade Cunningham doing that? And what's Jaden Ivey? Is Jaden Ivey really coming back?
That's fair.
I can't imagine.
My only thing was that they have to. They're all-time greats. I mean, when I watch Giannis, I'm like, that's the best player in the world. And I watch Jokic, I'm like, that's the best player in the world. But they have to play perfect. Like, Giannis has to play at that level, which he's capable of doing. He scored 50 in the closeout game in the finals. But I like my chances going up against that because you got to play perfect 4 games.
Well, last night he did not play. And it was Gary Trent Jr. that led the way with 29. Brooke Lopez had 20 points and 12 rebounds. Now, again, it's New Orleans. It wasn't like they were playing a juggernaut.
I don't think New Orleans is trying to win anything
still,
as of late.
They go out and they get a road win that they needed to win because they're in that fight with Detroit for that 5th overall spot. So we'll keep an eye on that. Again, Pacers 3 games at home this week. Washington tomorrow night, Cleveland on Thursday, Orlando on Friday. Then they finish the regular season at Cleveland on Sunday. And maybe that last game, KB, maybe Cleveland sits their players down that last game.
Well, I'm sweating, boys. I need 50. Last night was huge for me. I need a 3-1 week. 3-1 week to get to 50.
How was your weekend with the gambling tables, Mark Dykton?
Quiet. I didn't make any bets.
Wow.
Responsible young man.
I still can't believe that. Jeff kicked me right in the you-know-what to start the show, thinking that I had the big weekend of winning when – I think I made it very clear.
That was purposeful.
Yeah.
I need it all.
Maybe
he was firing shots on Friday, too. He was taking shots at everybody.
Maybe subconsciously. Who was I firing at?
Oh, you said Kevin's wife is the breadwinner in the family. You
I
said
did not
James.
say that, did I?
Didn't he?
I don't remember saying that.
You said
that is certainly true.
Yeah.
To be
something about
to be fair.
Oh, we're talking about
dating the dad bod, and then James was something else.
I think the line was you and I both married up was what the line was.
Hated on James
and
for
of
being
course
single.
He takes that as. I did not hate on James for being single.
Sounds like I'm gonna have to go back and listen to Friday.
I know.
I think you hear what you want to hear, Mark Dykton.
I think I hear
because
it.
I know you. If I'd actually said those things, they'd be isolated and thrown back at me later
I'm
on.
like, don't do it. Don't do it.
Man,
you're asking for trouble now.
Was there a certain hour I need to listen to, or should I just?
I'll have it for tomorrow, Kevin. I'm on a mission now.
Mark may be manning the overnights again soon, guys.
Here's one thing I want to throw out there, and I don't want to get too far down the line with this, but coming into this season, the trade deadline was looked at as like, could the Pacers move Obi? Could they move Bennett? They didn't make any moves. They kept their guys. What do you need to see, KB, from this postseason run to kind of decide what the future looks like for you? I mean, you have to make decisions at some point, and I feel like we're in that honeymoon stage. And I'm not saying you shouldn't focus on everything right in front of you right now, but decisions are coming, so I just wonder how much the playoffs will factor into that.
Right, and I want to be very clear, like Walker playing the final 3 minutes last night, I don't think that all of a sudden means like, a week and a half, boom, Rick Carlisle turns to him in the final 3 minutes of a playoff game. Playoff rotations are just different. I mean, the playoffs in general are different, but you do bring up a great point because paying Miles Turner, I've always been under the impression, and maybe this is more of like a Tony East, Alex Golden, Scott Agnes conversation when they join us next. If you look at it financially, Jarris Walker and Benedict Mathurin aren't making that much money. It's really Obi Toppin and TJ McConnell that are guys that are making a good amount of money coming off the bench for you. So if you're going to have to pinch elsewhere to pay Turner, does that mean you sacrifice a Toppin? Does that mean you sacrifice a McConnell? And if you're going to play out the roster, as much as Obi has been great here lately, if you're going to pass the torch anywhere, wouldn't Obi passing the torch to Jarris Walker make a lot of sense? Like on paper, that does make a lot of sense. So I think it's a fair conversation, and credit to the Pacers. They've created that conversation. They've pushed that conversation more to the back burner with how well they've played, getting back on this home court. But that is a relevant one that we could be having as early as the end of this month. Obviously, Pacers fans hope that we don't. But I guess to answer it, it is a I think it could come down to Toppin or Walker.
Yeah.
That's how you view it.
And Obadiah, because I have to say full names when they play that well. I'm like, man, he's been playing some great basketball,
that
too.
First quarter last night when Jokic just got, 20 in the first?
Yeah.
Obi kind of kept you in it.
Yeah.
There. And so, these are good problems to have, but Walker deserves a huge credit for how he's handled it. I mean, guys, a month ago, we're talking about Jarris Walker playing in a G League game.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that?
That seems like a different lifetime, but
yes. But that's not that long ago.
I know.
We're asking Rick Carlisle about him playing in a G League game, and then last night in one of the biggest games of the season, and, a game you circle on your calendar, there's Walker playing critical minutes, and you're finishing off an impressive road win.
This team heading down the stretch here, guys, 12-3 in their last 15.
Woo. And I think KB pointed it out. Their only recent home loss was the LeBron tip-in. So
they won 11 of 12 at home.
Yeah, they played really good basketball, and they've done it in a variety of ways. Where we saw last night, Tyrese didn't have it going offensively. Now, some of that was him getting blitzed on a lot of screens and pick and rolls, but you see other guys stepping up, making big shots, and the role players continuing to step up for them. So this Pacers team is deep, man, and I feel like they're a team. We talk about who the Pacers want to face. I don't think other teams want to see them necessarily either.
No,
on the flip side,
not at all.
because they're playing some great basketball as of late.
And big wins during that streak, too. They won that home game against Milwaukee. They won twice against Minnesota, home and road, and then they beat the Nuggets last night. So they've been beating some good teams along the way, too, as well as, picking off some of the lesser teams in the league, but they've done a nice job everywhere.
Absolutely. I mean, I complained about how they went out and beat Charlotte a couple, nights ago and playing around with them before pulling away, but a win is a win is a win, and I can't complain too much about it.
Should we bet on El Pato in the Masters?
Anybody know? Me.
El Pato?
No.
I need a backstory on this.
Yeah.
Angel Cabrera, I believe he has spent a decent amount of time in jail here over the last couple of years.
Wasn't it tax problems or something like that? Or no, there was, I think it might have been a
it sounds like a
domestic too.
Sounds like a Phil Mickelson thing more than an Angel Cabrera thing. But nonetheless, past champion. And he's back in the field this week.
How old is he, though, now?
Boy, he's got to be in his mid-50s.
55.
He might. Is that what it is, 55?
James Boyd all over
Does
the
he have a teardrop tattoo
you
on
are
his
quick
face
with
now?
those fingers on the
Bernhard
Google.
Longer's
No, I got curious.
final
Once you said
Masters.
jail, I was like, what did he go to jail for?
I know. You don't get jail in golf.
There might have been
many,
some domestic
many
stuff involved, too, now that I'm thinking about it. I can't remember exactly
He's
what
just
it was.
firing cigarettes walking up and down the hallowed grounds at Augusta National.
Isn't that one of the greatest memes of all time, his warm-up routine?
Oh, that's Miguel.
Oh, that's Miguel
Angel
Cabrera.
Jimenez.
Right?
Yeah.
Swinging the hips and everything
Slightly
like
different
that.
body types, those two.
But that's going to be a lot of fun. I know Mark is going to be busy on the gambling apps this weekend, right? Or this
I need
week?
some advice from Kevin. Yeah, once we get a little closer to the Masters, I need some plays.
I thought we'll Hask it on the Colin Morikawa train. I mean, if you are against Rory and Scotty, if you don't feel like they're going to get it done, you can get some good odds. Those two are for those that don't follow golf, those two are overwhelming favorites. They are. I don't even know.
It's like plus 400.
I'm trying to compare them to two other teams. I mean, feel like Dodgers. I don't know if there was a second team in baseball knocking on the Dodgers' door. It's that type of
the
significant
Yankees
favorite.
maybe or something.
Scheffler is plus 450. McIlroy is plus 650.
I mean, plus 450. I mean, he's one player out of 96 in the field.
Yeah,
and that's what, $10 to win $45.
Morikawa is probably a solid value play. I think I've won with Scheffler before. I went chalk before, and that's paid off. But Morikawa, I seem to put some seeds down for Morikawa.
Where are you at on John Rahm? He likes this course.
Yeah, I just hate the live players.
So once they went live, that's it for you, right?
But I will say this again
for our
non-sport, for our non-golf nerds like myself, the fact that live is here has created, I think, great drama for the majors. Because now you're curious about Rahm. You haven't seen Rahm in a while. Mm-hmm. You're curious about Bryson. You're curious about Brooks. Like all these guys that, move the needle a little bit. Don't act like they're Tiger. But, think about last year, the U.S. Open. That Rory-Bryson drama, the final few holes, there is kind of a live PGA element to it that I think is there. So as much as I hate it, I do think that adds a little bit of drama to these majors.
I was all in on the social media Bryson DeChambeau home course hole-in-one challenge that he gave himself during the offseason. Did you see that? Did you watch any of that at all?
He was hitting balls over his house, right?
Yeah, which his house is, the front of it is basically all windows and glass. So it was kind of...
A lot of trust in the swing. So, KB, remind me, have you been down there to Augusta National at all?
Yeah, I've been twice. I went to practice round in 2019. Unfortunately, it was kind of like a day like this where it rained off and on. We were in and out. That was the year Tiger ended up winning. And then 2011 went to Friday and Saturday of the tournament. Tiger shot 67 on Friday to get into the top 5. I just remember how much scalpers were just.
Did you follow him the entire time?
Well, no. We posted up like a 12th hole, kind of the iconic par 3 there. We saw him come. We were actually pretty close to him coming through and playing that. But the unique thing about it, no phones allowed inside, and so not to get like too sappy, but like you have to be present. I mean, there's no like.
That's actually pretty cool.
And there's really no like major video boards. I mean, these are all like manual boards. So you hear these roars and like.
Then you have to look at the scoreboard, see what that roar was.
And the Tiger roar is different than pretty much anybody else.
Yeah.
Rory was up there that year. That was the year Rory snap hooked into the cabins, for those that are Masters historians, if you will. But yeah, 10 different guys had the lead on Sunday. It was a crazy final round of the Masters.
That's on my bucket list.
I even think you, James, as a non-golf fan, would appreciate just some of the, I don't know, just some of the aura, if you will, of it. Of just, it's super unique. And the fact that, again, you have to give up your phone when you walk in there. And I think it's the same thing for media, too. In media, you're giving up your phone and you're just, notepad and walking around. Yeah. Think about the last time you've covered a sporting event without your phone or without your laptop.
That's crazy.
I mean, hell, you maybe have never done it.
So relax after the first 15 or 20 minutes, though, when you know you don't have it. Then you just kind of just do what you're doing, right?
Yeah. So, again, I'm kind of a sucker for all
that's bucket
nostalgia
list.
with it.
I probably covered a dozen PGA tournaments. I've done a U.S. Open. I've done a PGA. Never been to the Masters.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, Zach Kiefer played.
Huh?
He got the national.
Yeah.
So they do a lottery for the media. So if you cover the event, James, for the Athletic, you would be in a lottery to play on Monday.
So you always take your clubs
from
with you.
Today, I want to say, I don't know, I want to say like 20, 30 people get to then play the course on a Monday. And yeah, Kiefer played it.
If I ever won something like that, I would just give it to you, KB, because there's no way I'll play that.
I don't think it's transferable. It's yours or
man,
nothing.
it would be transferable. They would be like, get this dude out before he messes up my grass.
That is the nicest thing you've ever said.
No,
I'd like to think we could swap IDs, but I think we probably couldn't do that. Unfortunately, I don't think we look close enough alike to pull that off. But that's the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
You know what they're saying to James if he wins that thing?
You're playing golf and you're going to like it.
Pretty much.
It's Augusta National Caddy's like, how did I draw this guy?
Yeah, they're like, this dude, he's wearing Jordans.
All right, Mark, very quickly, let's do a check down here. Indiana Pacers beat the Nuggets last night, 125-120. That's a 4-game winning streak for the Pacers now. Miles Turner had 24, Obi Toppin 22. Pascal Siakam did not play. The Nuggets have a 4-game losing streak now, despite the impressive play of Nikola Jokic of late. He had 41, 15, and 13 last night. James, he had 21 at the end of the first quarter. It looked like trouble for the Pacers.
Yeah, I mean, he was having an all-time great start, had an all-time great game, but didn't have enough help there for Andrew Nembhard, who had a big shot late, Tyrese Halliburton, who got going a little bit late as well, and just a collective effort by the Pacers. 4
games remaining in their regular season. They are 3 games ahead of the Milwaukee Bucks for that 4th and final home court playoff advantage in the Eastern Conference. They will finish the year with 3 at home and 1 on the road. Tomorrow night, Washington at 7 o'clock, airtime, 6:30 here on The Fan with the great Mark Boyle. Baseball, the Reds lose again to the Brewers. 8-2 was the final score there. The Cubs got knocked off by the Padres for that snapped a 5-game winning streak, Mark. Does that sound better for you?
Yeah, that makes more sense.
All right. National championship for women last night. UConn just hammered South Carolina. I think they led by 32 at one point in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, rough game for South Carolina. We saw Dawn Staley kind of going through it on the sidelines. But shout out to Paige Beckers. AZ Fudd had been through some major injuries over the last few years, and then go out as champions, or at least Paige Beckers does, because now she's going to the WNBA draft, which, by the way, I believe is like next Monday. So they get no time off.
Yeah.
And, KB, there were 2 women with Indiana ties on that UConn basketball team.
Yeah, shout out to Ashlyn Shade from Noblesville. She's played consistent role for UConn all year long. Ayanna Patterson, unfortunately injured, missed basketball from Homestead a couple years ago. But, yeah, both of them. UConn has had a little bit of an Indiana flavor over the years. I certainly think of Kelly Ferris from Heritage Christian back in the day. So, Gino, while he didn't recruit Caitlin Clark, he has recruited the state. So, The GOAT with another title there. Shocking. Their first in 9 years. I was stunned when Ryan Rucco mentioned that yesterday.
All right, for you gearheads, NASCAR, second week in a row that Denny Hamlin comes out on top. This was the Goodyear 400 in Darlington. Hard to believe I said this earlier, KB, but there was controversy and crashes and all kinds of stuff at the very end for NASCAR.
We get IndyCar back on the schedule this week. If I'm not mistaken, I want to say Long Beach, one of their more historical tracks. So the streets of Long Beach coming up this weekend before, obviously, things really, really pick up here as we approach the month of May. Hard to think about May when we see all the rain that we've had. Hopefully getting it out of the way before we reach 16th in Georgetown.
Dixon is the defending champion there. All right, so we got the national championship game for the men coming up tonight. Who do you like, JB? Is it going to be Florida? Is it going to be Houston?
I got to roll with Houston because they were my pick from the beginning. The bracket got busted completely because St. John's lost pretty early and other teams. But I'm sticking with who I chose at the beginning because they got a team full of dogs.
KB?
Yeah, Houston was my pick at the start of the bracket, so I'm not going to hop off that bandwagon now. I am a little concerned. Just was that emotional taxing too much? I mean, it is a relatively quick turnaround for them. I get why they were celebrating that to the level that they were, but still, I'm a little concerned about that. And it's funny, and we can probably hit on this on the other side. Finishing off Houston and finishing off Florida, it's very two different situations. Like with Houston, finally beating them, you have to like kill 30 dogs. I mean, that's like what Houston is, not to get too graphic here. Whereas with Florida, it's like every time you think you've got them, you forget about Walter Clayton Jr. and boom, it hits a shot. Like he's more the one individual killer, but I mean like all caps. So both of these teams, certainly it's a 40-minute absolute battle, and it's a reason why they've combined to win 35 of their last 36 games.
You think Houston is guarding him right now, Jeff?
They've started to, yeah, in the parking lot. Pick him up coming off the bus. And the start time tonight, JB?
What is it, 8:50? 8:49, something like that? I mean, it's not early enough for me in my purposes, but as I always say, I will stay up and watch it all, no matter what. Jeff, I'm going to call you when it gets to the last 10 minutes, and you better not be going, nope, don't give me no dial tone. Don't you snooze me.
I'm going to give my phone to my 15-year-old. You can talk to him.
I'm going to get your dad up. We're watching the rest of this game, so it'll be exciting stuff.
All right, coming up in a moment, I got a question for you guys to put some things into a historical context, things we've seen over the last week or two. And if you're a big sports fan, I think this stuff does matter, and it's fun to talk about. It's why we become sports fans, to see achievements that we haven't seen before. We'll talk about it next on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. It's one of my favorite bands, Mark Dykton. I was just listening to Heart all weekend this weekend.
There you go. You're
Dig
welcome. I've increased your Spotify Wrapped for 2025.
That's how that goes. Yesterday, Alex Ovetkin of the Washington Capitals. His 895th goal that breaks Gretzky's all-time goal-scoring record. Gretzky's on hand. Big celebration. A lot of fun. And you start to think about what are the other things in sports that we are just not likely to see happen during our lifetime? Like I never thought as 15 years ago, I thought, no way will anybody ever approach Wayne Gretzky's goal-scoring record. Now, his all-time points for assists and goals combined is still insanely out of reach for anybody. But outside of that, what are the records that you say to yourself, man, there's no way anybody's ever gotten to that?
I think Emmitt Smith, what is it, like 18,000 rushing yards or something like that? Like, I don't think anybody's ever going to touch that again in the NFL.
I mean, DiMaggio for sure from an individual season standpoint. I mean, 56. I'm trying to think what's the longest we've gotten recently.
Especially in today's age where you got to face sometimes 3-4 pitchers during the course of your game as a batsman.
40 even. I mean, hell, 40 seems like a big number.
Mid-30s even. I don't think we've gotten to lately, have we?
Yeah, but to James's point, I think anytime you have a longevity element, like I'm trying to say single season stuff because I think all the longevity stuff is almost impossible with load management or just in general. I don't think we'll see careers extend as deep as they do. Like I think the LeBrons and the Bradys of the world, I just think those will largely be anomalies here.
Like the Cal Ripken Jr. consecutive game.
Yeah.
Like it's impossible. No way.
I just don't see that happening. So I try
I'll go
to
single game. Like I don't think 100 points is getting touched. And
Yes.
I know the NBA is scoring centric, but 100
Kobe's
points.
come the closest,
well,
right?
we mentioned it last week. I mean, Scott Skiles is 30 assists.
Yeah, that's a good pull.
That just seems like there's
He's
no
an Indiana
chance.
guy, right?
Yeah, Plymouth.
Mhm.
That just seems like there's no chance anybody would get to that mark.
Is
I mean,
there-
how about Mahomes in the AFC Championship games?
What's his record now?
I mean, is it 6 for 6 so far?
It's insane. Well, how many of those games did Brady play in his career? Championship games.
Ugh,
AFC
it's
Championship
probably
game. I mean,
way
hell,
out there.
Yeah, over a dozen.
That's
I don't know.
insane too.
Yeah, maybe it's more than that, but yeah, I mean,
I think a lot of the pitching records we won't see just because of what you say. I don't know if it's like the same term in baseball as like load management, but the arms are a lot more tended and cared
pitch counts
for.
just aren't. I mean, Scotty brought it up last week. I think I forget, James, if you were down in Florida, but we brought up the Scott Skiles assist record, and Scotty was quick to mention the complete game record. And again,
different eras too. Yeah,
just live in a single season. If you don't want to play out the Cal Ripken, to Mark's point, or you don't want to play out the Emmitt Smith career yards, even if you just did the single season stuff, like what's a single season rushing record? I mean, I don't see that number getting there because, teams don't run their running backs as much as they used to there. So, like the DiMaggio one isn't really a load management thing. I mean, guys still play,
right?
A lot in baseball,
It's just
but it's
hard.
just 50. Yeah, it's just hard.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Scott Skiles 30 assists.
analysis
That's just
hard.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
Well, the way it's pitching these days too, like the 05 White Sox, it goes under the radar, but they had 4 consecutive complete games thrown by their pitchers in the playoffs. 4 complete games.
Gosh, that is wild.
That's crazy.
That's never happened. That's never getting touched. That's never happening.
By the way, shout out to Ron here, and I hope that the shoulder surgery goes well. Ron chimes in, strategically scheduled shoulder surgery for Masters Week.
Ooh.
Not as
That's
fun
how you do it.
as a vasectomy. He chimes in here. Thank you, Ron, for that.
It's a different kind of snip.
But lots of recliner time regardless. Ron is playing chess while many people are playing checkers.
Here's the thing, though. I've had 2 shoulder surgeries. I hope he has the surgery like Tuesday so that he's kind of bouncing back again by Thursday, because the first day or two, you're kind of in a cloud.
Well, that might, you can be in and out watching the Masters. You can, feel like you're in a cloud as you're sitting there in the recliner.
Don't place any bets while you're recovering from shoulder surgery, I would say.
Do that before it hits.
Why'd I put $10 on Sandy Lyle?
Justin Verlander has 262 career wins right now. Does he get to 300? Is he the last guy even with a shot to get to 300? Because, man, that seems like a long way
I was going to say,
away.
it still feels like it's a long way away.
It does.
One kind of, while we're on the historical data, and I apologize, I swear I won't beat it in the ground too much here during Masters Week, but the historical notes here on the Masters. Bernhard Langer, former champion, he's in the field this week. He has said it'll be his last Masters. His first Masters was in 1976. So in that Masters, you had Gene Sarazen in the field, who was born in 1902. So in Langer's first ever Masters, he had a man, a fellow competitor that was born in 1902. In this year's Masters, Bernhard Langer will play against a competitor that was born in 2002. So he has spanned a full century's worth of golfers. Sarazen played in the 76 Masters, born in 02. Tom Kim, born in 2002. I mean, hell, there's probably even younger guys in the field if you look at
some of the amateurs, probably, right?
Yeah, some of the amateurs. But yeah, pretty wild.
Jeez.
Man.
And
This is what I love about
actually made the cut in a few of these Masters here.
That's what I love about this week. Kevin is going to be a font of those kinds of information.
Oh, James going to be so sick of me by Thursday.
Like you
Which
said,
is okay.
I appreciate
I like it.
I do have like a bucket list of things I want to experience in person.
Have you seen the Media Center?
For the Masters?
Yeah.
I have not, actually.
Dude, Google it. So again, the Masters is 1 week out. Like, over at IMS, they have a lot of other events outside of just the 500. Certainly the IMS Media Center is super nice. But like, the Brickyard, obviously, you have a road course race. You have, at one point you had an
Grand
F1
Prix.
Oh,
race.
dang.
I mean, so think about that. That is 1 week out of the year, this Masters Media Center.
It looks a little bit like your Vegas sports book.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like I'm watching like the Dow Jones or something.
Yeah, but even nicer.
Oh, it's much nicer, yeah.
This is incredible.
You don't have the stench of cigarette and spilled alcohol.
Well, and maybe some other, drops of what elsewhere. But nonetheless, it is insane how nice it is.
No,
For
this
1
is
week out of the year. It's not like the Masters is hosting other, Churchill Downs. There are a lot of other races there.
Yeah.
IMS, there's other, events there.
This
Augusta
is nice,
National.
though. Wow.
This is it. So James Boyd, if you needed any more reason to be there, imagine that being your home for a week.
Bucket list item. The thing is, though, I just want to go and like not work. People are always like, "You want to go cover this?" I'm not that well versed when it comes to golf, so
there's
I
probably
would much
5
rather...
or 10 media folks that go there that don't do a ton of work that week.
Yeah, but those are usually like the legends, though, right? They've earned the right to kind of just be there at that point. I know we had a guy when I was in Illinois, LaRon Tate, who was like a legend, columnist and had covered the team for forever. And so he'd come to the games and he'd be the only guy in the press room or the press box who could openly say this team stinks and no one could really get mad at him because he's been there for 50 years. So I don't know if I've got that kind of cachet.
We love numbers. Numbers are terrific. Numbers have the most insightful things. We use them all the time in sports. There's a number from yesterday that Scotty has dug up that is, you're going to be blown away by it. And we'll tell you what that is in our Jiffy Lube stat of the day next. It's 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Getting ready for the national championship game in college basketball later on tonight. It'll be Florida taking on Houston, Kelvin Sampson. And look, Florida, what is it about basketball there? Every 10, 15 years, they rise up, they play, man.
Yeah, I believe is this their fourth national championship game appearance?
Todd Golden bothers me.
Yeah, I'm saying I'm there with you too. Like, who do you root for tonight from a coaching
rabbit's hole with the whole allegations against him earlier this year. Maybe I should. Well, they swept those under the rug. Maybe I should give him benefit of the doubt. But I don't know. Reading those were kind of hard.
That'll be later on tonight, though, and I don't know. I just got a feeling Kelvin Sampson's going to get this done with Houston tonight.
Does the hate train continue as an IU fan?
Oh, yeah.
When do you give it up, though?
No, hate is forever, Jeff.
Never.
Nah, hate is forever, man.
Paul brings up a good point here, and I think if you have kids, and I'm curious, Jeff's kids are older, so maybe Mark would be the better one to throw this off of. But would you rather watch the game tonight in the Pacific time zone of a 5:50 start or the Eastern time zone at 8:50? My answer is easily the Eastern time zone.
Yes, because kids are going to bed in like an hour, if not earlier, and then you get the rest of the night.
James, you would say 5:50
as
easily,
the bachelor
right?
with no children.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I would probably still say 8:50. 5:50 feels a little too early.
Yeah, you guys
you're like getting off of work.
Yeah,
you guys have been making fun of me.
I do want to, give some
day.
credit to the people who actually have to like work a regular 9 to 5. Not even like saying this in a trolling way, but seriously, most people don't have the jobs that we do, where you can just kind of pretty much watch a game whenever. So yeah, for the normal human, no, I don't want a game to start at 5:50. Not a game this big.
So you guys making fun of me all day long, but last night I'm watching the Pacers and Nuggets, and my 15-year-old comes downstairs at halftime. He's like, "Hey, let's watch the game together." I'm like, okay, let's go. So I sat and watched the second half of the game with my 15-year-old son last night.
Yeah, but see, your kids are at a point in life where they behave. Mark and I's kids don't.
Yeah.
So like at a 5:50 start time seems awful to me in trying to dinner,
navigate
bath,
everything,
get them asleep,
Get ready
while
for bed,
also paying
homework,
attention to the game. Like honestly, last night I love that Pacer start time.
Every game ever should start at 7:05 Eastern time. That's my wheelhouse right there.
But man, if you're on the West Coast,
that's not my problem.
Well, you already have the privilege of living on the West Coast.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Can't have it all in life, and they already do.
All right, let's check out our Jiffy Lube stat of the day, courtesy of the one and only Scott Johnston. You guys are going to love this one. We've been talking about it a few times today. Washington Capitals wing Alex Ovetkin becomes the all-time leading goal scorer in the National Hockey League. He notched career goal 895, surpassing Wayne Gretzky's record. Gretzky needed 1,487 games to reach 894 goals for his career. KB, how many games did Ovetkin need to reach 895?
I got no idea.
I'm going to say
heard this
it
earlier.
was less games than I'm going to say less games than the Great.
How many games are in a season?
80 games. 1,487, the identical number of games to get one more goal than Gretzky did.
Really?
How about that?
That's pretty wild.
That is crazy.
I saw that and I had to keep like checking. I'm like, am I reading this wrong? Am I an
know.
idiot? Or is this the exact same thing?
Sounds like an answer in one of my tests in high school where I'm like, there's no chance this is right.
Gretzky played the first 80 games of his career in the old World Hockey Association, 8 with the Indianapolis Racers, of course. Before being traded to the Edmonton Oilers, he scored 3 of his 894 career goals with the Racers.
Wait, so the Racers traded the greatest player ever? This happened?
They weren't in the National Hockey League at that point.
Oh, I'm not. I need to read about this, huh? I'm like, what? Wait a second. He was here? That's cool.
Yeah.
Mark, should we hit our goats
For a
of the
little
weekend here before we round it out on
Let's do it.
on a Monday?
Who is the GOAT?
I told you all that I was the greatest of all time.
Jordan. Here's Michael at the foul line. A shot on Elo. Good!
That's what I'm talking about. That's why he's the MVP. That's why he's the GOAT. The GOAT.
Or GOAT?
This guy sucks.
Of the week.
KB, lead us off.
Mark, you played it earlier. It can make you go to sleep. It might welcome me to heaven if I ever make it at some point in my life. And at the same time, it gets me excited to watch Tiger Woods chipping in to the left of the 16th green at Augusta National. The Masters theme song, the GOAT theme song in sports. Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome.
JB?
I'm going to go Sarah Strong is my GOAT.
Stole mine.
Freshman from UConn. She finished with 24, 15, 5 assists, 3 blocks, and 2 steals in the national championship game. I know it was Paige Beckers' championship, but the freshman was pretty special. And I'll give an honorable mention to Ashlyn Shea, too, from Noblesville.
You stole my thunder there, but I'm going to then just go up the ladder and say Gino Auriemma, 12 championships and a 9-year gap between 11 and 12. He's 71 years old. A lot of people were saying you're too old, get out of the game. It's changed. You're still one of the top, but you can't get back to the top, and he was able to do it.
Yeah, I never believed in UConn. They've always been a terrible program. I just never thought they'd win ever again. But no, it was cool to see him, I guess get back on top. But I will say, don't lie in the post-game interview and say you didn't think your team was going to make the NCAA tournament. We're not buying that at all, brother.
Mark?
Mine was the White Lotus season finale last night. I thought it was excellent. I thought it was funny.
I watched
It was
show,
dramatic.
man.
It was sad. And overall, I thought a great season.
No
Stayed up late
spoilers.
to watch it. No. But give the Emmy to Parker Posey now, because her rendition of Victoria Ratliff, outstanding. So White Lotus season finale, incredible. Loved it.
Love Parker Posey. And your poor bad goat of the week, KB.
I think the sports calendar.
Ooh.
After this week, it really, really drops off for me. Obviously, we get the NBA playoffs. Certainly the month of May locally matters a whole lot. But, I have to overreact to, game 27 of the Reds season. We've had a great run here. Obviously, football season bleeds right into March Madness a little bit there. And then, again, selfishly, I love this week. But, yeah, once we get through this week, guys, oh, man, the sports calendar just drops off for me.
All right, JB.
I'm going to go. It has to be Duke, right? I mean, you blew.
You keep taking mine.
I mean, these are obvious ones, Jeff.
I know.
You go first then. I have a backup.
You're good. Go ahead.
No, I mean, that's rough. I don't feel any sympathy for them because it's Duke, right? And they're very, used to winning. But, I mean, one moment you're thinking you're going to a national championship, and the next moment you're blowing the biggest lead I've ever seen in that amount of time. So, I believe their big man, who's 7'2", had 0 rebounds in a game like that. So, just sickening if you're a Duke Blue Devils fan.
Mark?
Okay, so we just had 2 weeks of spring break. Kids are supposed to go back to school today. And what happens? I wake up, alarm is just about to go off, and our middle daughter is puking. So she's not back to school today.
That is horrific.
So we just had 2 weeks
Mark,
off.
I am so sorry.
And now she's home.
Because today you could spin that the other way, Mark. You could say it's a goat day and that the kids are going back.
Right. But I feel like this happened at winter break, too, where we just had winter break, and our oldest wasn't feeling good. So it's like we can't – these breaks just – they extend.
I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
All right. I will, again, just kind of go down the tree of where you were going, JB. Mason Gillis.
Man, you too.
You can't do that
Get a
with
room.
everything on the line like
Don't
that.
say you too. I went first.
Share a
hammock in Aruba or something.
Man. James sucking up to the boss here.
Ain't no sucking up. Look, I stayed up and watched the end of all these games, so I deserve to go first.
Trouble in paradise.
James is going to be my goat next week for the good goat. How about that?
We'll
JB?
see. I'm going to call to make sure you stay up and watch the end of this game tonight. How about that?
All right, Mark, I think we have to get out of here pretty quickly, don't we?
Yes, we do.
How long do we have? Because I haven't looked at the
Well, that's not
the
good
sheet.
on you. No, you still got a couple minutes.
All right. I just want to check that out. Pacers are off tonight. They will start a 3-game homestand tomorrow night. And go watch this team play. I say this all the time. There's no more fun team to watch in the NBA than the Pacers. The players are easy to like. They play well. They like each other. You watch that bench. They genuinely care about, cheer for, and like each other on that bench, man.
Yeah, I believe there's only like their second road win in Denver since like 2009 or something crazy like that. So a place that's very hard to play in because of the altitude that we all are aware of. But on top of that, the team. Denver's been a really good team these last few years, and they took the Joker's best shot with a 40-point triple-double, and it just wasn't enough to overcome the Pacers, who, again, like you said, Jeff, one of the more fun teams in the NBA and also just a very balanced team as well.
You're going to be watching every shot of the amateur par 3 contest with the players and their kids and everything else this week?
Oh, I love that. I like to show Maddie that because hopefully it gets her into the Master. I'm like, look at these cute little kids.
Have you put a golf club in her hand yet?
Running around.
Easy now.
Well, yeah. I don't want to take it too far there.
I've got some junior clubs if you guys are interested.
Well, that might be more up to speed.
Maddie, not Rosie. And Max, but I will add VJ Singh has just withdrawn from the Masters, so we've gone from 96 to 95. So one of the certainly legends when it comes to practicing and the commitment to the game. VJ Singh, what's he, our 2000 and something champion, 2003, something like that.
So again, Maddie hasn't held a golf club yet.
Well, Maddie.
Rosie.
Maddie's
Rosie.
36
Rosie.
years old, 35 years old. Rosie, yes.
Has Maddie played golf with you?
Maddie's taken me out for my birthday, a couple times. Yes, Rosie has played golf. Golf in the backyard's more of hockey. We just kind of slap it around and drag
Plastic
it a little
golf
bit there.
ball?
We're not. Yes, plastic golf. Well, honestly, if they used real golf balls, I don't think it would matter right now. So that's where we're at. We're at the infancy stages.
I like that. What about your girls? Ever had a golf club, or would you trust them with a golf club, Mark?
Yeah, but we got